Shen Luan performed a curtsy, quickly stepping aside. Your Highness, that is unnecessary. It was young Master Xiao who saved me. And how could a humble girl like me dare to accept your courtesy? This matter, it seemed, should come to a close. Shen Luan let out a sigh of relief, pondering whether the reinforcements Qin Ge mentioned might be the ninth prince. She awaited the emperor's command for her to withdraw, but unexpectedly, the topic returned to her. However, I have heard that the one who rescued the songstress, Xiao Ran, is betrothed to you? Shen Luan's heart skipped a beat. How could the emperor, who was burdened with state affairs, have heard of such trivial matters? As for this matter, I know very little, as my family is governed by the elders. A sensible girl indeed. The emperor cast a smile at concubine Zhen. Since it is my son who has caused this trouble, I ought to offer some compensation. The young scion of the Xiao family is worthy of a girl from the Shen family. Why not allow me to do a good deed? Shen Luan was so startled that she nearly forgot her manners. Her wide eyes filled with panic. Your Majesty, the engagement between me and young Master Xiao truly cannot be considered. The emperor's eyes narrowed. What? Do you refuse? Concubine Zhen's gentle voice flowed like a clear spring. Your Majesty, please temper your tone. Do not frighten the child. The emperor immediately softened his tone. I am merely curious. It appears she is not particularly willing. Concubine Zhen chuckled softly. Miss Shen, you need not worry. If you are unwilling, His Majesty would not impose upon you. Pray tell, why do you believe the engagement cannot be counted? Shen Luan's trembling heart gradually calmed. In response to your Highness, this engagement was arranged before I was even born. Now, after more than a decade, I have yet to meet young Master Xiao and know very little about him. Perhaps to others, this may seem a favorable match, but I do not value family background or status. I only wish to marry someone I truly admire. Having finished her speech, she lowered her head, hardly daring to breathe. Shen Luan, you are quite bold. How have you gained such audacity to speak so freely before the emperor and concubine Jin? The stillness in the hall was stifling, and a layer of sweat broke out on Shen Luan's back, her inner garment clinging uncomfortably. The emperor paced a few steps, as if struck by a thought, first glancing at the concubine, then casting another look at Shen Luan. Marry someone you admire? Huh? Shen Luan heard the emperor's laughter, which carried a hint of frost. Such a young age, yet your words are quite grand, your Majesty. Concubine Zhen's soft voice interrupted the emperor, compelling him to turn. Her clear, dark eyes regarded him without emotion, as if nothing could escape her scrutiny. Suddenly, the emperor rose. I have matters to attend to. I shall go to the imperial study. The eunuch's high-pitched voice echoed. Prepare the carriage for the imperial study. The attendants in the hall rapidly diminished in number, and the ninth prince, grinning, stealthily made a remarkable gesture toward Shen Luan, then bounded over to the third prince, royal brother. Did father not say yesterday that we should assist in reviewing the memorials? Let us accompany him. He and the third prince departed, appearing to share an amicable camaraderie. In the vast hall, only Shen Luan stood there, feeling utterly at a loss, alone with concubine Jin. Please take a seat. Chapter 99. Nothing to say. Shen Luan's attempt to take her leave was thwarted. She approached and sat at the embroidered stool brought by the maidservants. Having been so tense earlier, now so close to concubine Jin, Shen Luan marveled at her captivating beauty. It was not merely her physical allure. Every gesture, every smile, every expression of concubine Jin captivated the eye, as if all the beauty of the world coalesced within her, radiating brilliance. A maidservant offered Shen Luan tea, which she merely brushed her lips against before setting it down. You say you wish to marry someone you admire, thus deeming your engagement with the Xiao family as void. How intriguing. Concubine Zhen held a pair of scissors, trimming the leaves of a potted plant. So, one might deduce you do have someone you admire? Shen Luan hurriedly rose to pay her respects. Your Highness, I spoke foolishly in my confusion. I beg your Highness to forgive me. Not at all. I was merely curious. If you do not wish to share, that is perfectly acceptable. Concubine Zhen snipped off a leaf. Today, you have been quite startled. Shui can go fetch something to soothe Shen girl's nerves for her to take with her as she leaves the palace. Shen Luan was taken aback by the favor, repeatedly expressing her gratitude, and left in a daze. What was the purpose of her visit to the palace? Inside the hall, concubine Jin's scissors trembled gently as a perfectly bloomed flower fell. "Your Highness, are you unwell?" Concubine Jun withdrew her gaze from the window and gently shook her head. "It is nothing, I merely recalled some past events. I am weary, take these away." Guided by the palace attendants, Shun Luan made her way outside. Just a few steps out, the rain began to fall. The maidservants hurriedly led her to find shelter from the rain. "Please wait a moment, Miss Shun, while we fetch an umbrella for you." Shun Luan smiled and nodded, standing beneath the eaves, waiting. The rain fell steadily, not in a hurry, suggesting it would not cease anytime soon. She looked up at the beads of rain cascading from the eaves, unable to resist reaching out to catch them, feeling their cool dampness. "I used to love playing in the rain as a child. I never imagined I would still enjoy it as an adult." At the sound, Shun Luan turned to see Qin Gu, clad in deep-colored attire, standing a short distance away, smiling at her. Behind him, the rain fell in a curtain, his long hair tied back, the wind tousling his strands as if they sought to blend with the rain. And in that moment, Shun Luan's image of Qin Gu transformed entirely. Many years later, Shun Luan would occasionally recall this scene, him holding an umbrella, smiling gently at her, as if captured in a painting. Shun Luan withdrew her hand. A bit of rain had dampened her sleeve, but she shrugged it off carelessly. "What brings you here, Qin Gu?"
Qin Gu approached her side, placing the umbrella nearby. He swiftly grasped Xian's wrist and took a handkerchief from her, gently drying her hands. Xian stared in astonishment. Why was the young master of Guangyang seizing her task? At their age, was rain truly so amusing? She recalled how he used to refuse to use an umbrella when it rained, worried that getting wet would lead to reprimands when he returned home. So, after playing at her house, he would change into Shushu's clothes, concocting some excuse, and would often catch a cold twice as a result, yet he never seemed to learn from it. Qin Ji's voice was low as he spoke softly beside Shun Luan, who discreetly rubbed her ear. How long ago had that been? Why was Qin Gu still bringing it up? If he hadn't mentioned it, Shun Luan would have long forgotten. Qin Gu tightened his grip on Shun Luan's fingers, applying slight pressure as he used the handkerchief to wipe away the moisture between her fingers. Shun Luan felt a growing discomfort. The places he touched felt as though they were slowly igniting. "Thank you, Qin Gu. I can manage on my own," she said, forcefully pulling her hand back and hastily wiping her hands with the handkerchief as if that would suffice. "I just happen to be leaving the palace and have an umbrella, so allow me to escort you out." However, the maid had already gone to fetch the umbrella. The rain fell abruptly, and it seemed unlikely they would find it in time. "If you linger here too long, your family will surely worry, won't they?" Shun Luan pondered this and felt it made sense, so she conceded, "Then I must trouble you, Qin Gu." Qin Gu opened the umbrella, and Shun Luan walked beside him, the two entering the curtain of rain together. The umbrella Qin Gu held was quite large, yet he was also quite tall, making the space beneath it feel somewhat cramped. Shun Luan lowered her head, carefully lifting her skirt as she walked forward. After a while, she noticed that Qin Gu was walking particularly slowly, completely accommodating her pace. "Has the emperor inquired about your outing by the lake?" Shun Luan came back to her senses and softly replied, "Yes, I hadn't anticipated that word would reach the emperor's ears." The third prince had always maintained a good reputation, rarely making mistakes. It seemed he had not expected someone to brazenly compete for his attention. Since the emperor had received some memorials, he would inevitably ask. However, since you have been summoned to the palace for questioning, such rumors would soon dissipate. Shun Luan agreed internally. How could a prince be associated with a songstress? Thankfully, she had not misspoken in front of the court. Thinking of this, Shun Luan suddenly raised her head. "Is the reinforcements you mentioned perhaps the ninth prince?" Qin Gu smiled slightly. He volunteered to assist, claiming he needed a day off after injuring his hands from archery practice a few days ago. "And I simply went along with it." The emperor had ordered Guangyang Marquis to teach the ninth prince martial arts, fearing that the ninth prince would find it tedious to learn alone. Guangyang Marquis requested permission to bring Qin Gu into the palace as a companion. The outcome was quite remarkable. The ninth prince developed an inexplicable admiration for Qin Gu, whose martial skills surpassed even those of Guangyang Marquis. As a result, Qin Gu became the ninth prince's martial arts instructor. Shun Luan chuckled softly. "I had thought that all princes were serious and dignified. Yet the ninth prince seems rather different on this gloomy rainy day. Shen Luan's smile was bright and captivating. Qin Ji's expression grew serious. That's Xie Ran. Do you truly have an engagement with him? Shen Luan's smile faltered, her gaze drifting. He had indeed asked. Her eyes fell to the ground before her. Her tone steady. My mother said it was arranged by my father before I was born. The sound of rain hitting the umbrella suddenly became strikingly clear. Shen Luan felt the quiet atmosphere stretch uncomfortably long. Just as she was about to change the subject, she inadvertently turned her head and noticed raindrops falling from the edge of the umbrella, landing silently on Qin Ji's shoulder, which was clad in dark-colored attire, rendering the dampness almost invisible. Yet, the rain fell in strings, disappearing without a trace. Meanwhile, she remained completely d-r-y, so it is, she mused. The Emperor holds a favorable impression of Xie Ran and may summon him as well. As for your engagement, let's set that aside. He should know how to handle it. This matter will soon fade away, so you need not worry. As Shen Luan observed Qin Ji's comforting demeanor, an inexplicable agitation surged within her. She clutched the handkerchief tightly, turning her face away. There is nothing more to say about my engagement with young Master Xie. Chapter 100. Family banquet. Qin Ji's grip on the umbrella handle tightened momentarily before he relaxed it, lowering his gaze to conceal the emotions threatening to surface in his eyes, the corners of his mouth involuntarily curving upward. Then let us not speak of it. Qin Gu escorted Shen Luan to the palace gate, watching as she boarded the carriage and bidding farewell as the vehicle departed. Xiao Wu stood behind him, holding the umbrella. Young master, you still have to meet the emperor later. Are you truly going in soaked? Qin Gu patted his shoulder. It's no trouble. I will be dry soon. Ha ha ha. Xiao Wu chuckled without much mirth. I can see that you are nearly extending your head out from under the umbrella. Are you afraid Miss Shen won't notice you? Qin Gu redirected his gaze to Xiao Wu, who immediately lowered his head. Young master, you are so tender-hearted and meticulous. I am in awe. Why do I feel that you have become a bit stiff lately? Tomorrow, let the ninth prince spar with you. We shall see if he has improved. Xiao Wu's expression fell. Young master, I was wrong. When Shen Luan returned to the Shun residence, Jin Shi was already waiting in her courtyard. Upon seeing Shen Luan, Jin Shi hurried forward. What happened? Was there any unexpected trouble? Did the noble ladies in the palace make things difficult for you? Shen Luan sat Jin Shi down, reassuring her. Mother, do not worry. Everything is fine. I merely exchanged a few words, and you needn't fret. She gestured for Xian to bring over the reward she had received. Look, mother, I received a reward. Seeing Shen Luan safe and sound, Jin Shi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Perhaps I was overthinking it. As long as you're well, that is all that matters. I ordered someone to buy a feast at Zui Bai Lu to help ease your nerves tonight. Shen Luan smiled in agreement, seeing Jin Shi off before locking herself in her room, lost in thought. After a trip to the palace, Shen Luan felt inexplicably exhausted, especially since the emperor knew of her engagement to Xie Ran, which was quite unsettling. If the emperor were to whimsically issue a decree, it would not bode well for the Xie family, nor for her. This marriage must be swiftly annulled. That evening, Jin Shi organized a banquet for Shen Luan at her insistence, inviting Xie Ran. Although Jin Shi was unsure of Shen Luan's intentions, she typically did not refuse her requests. After all, it was true that Xie Ran had never been formally welcomed to the Shen family. With no one else present, only Jin Shi, Shen Luan, and Xie Ran gathered. Zui Bai Lu was a renowned establishment in Yin City, particularly famous for its Zui Xiang chicken, which Xie Ran might find to his taste. Shen Luan warmly hosted, unconcerned with Xie Ran's reactions, as long as she maintained her decorum. To her surprise, Xie Ran did not respond coldly. He engaged with her words, exceeding her expectations. Just as the banquet commenced, another person arrived. Brother? Shen Luan exclaimed in astonishment. How could Shen Wenxiao be here? Jin Shi quickly instructed someone to add another seat and utensils, explaining, I didn't want to disturb your studies, as this is a crucial time. So I didn't call for you, but I made sure to send a portion of the same dishes to you. Shen Wenxiao sat beside Shen Luan, a gentle smile gracing his typically cool demeanor. A family banquet should not impose on others. How could I allow Mother and Luan to entertain outsiders? That would be somewhat impolite. He poured himself a cup of wine and raised it towards Xie Ran. I apologize for the lack of hospitality. I hope Brother Xie will forgive me. Shen Luan exchanged glances with Jin Shi behind Shen Wenxiao, questioning, Does my brother drink? Jin Shi shook her head. Unsure. Both wore puzzled expressions. If Shen Wenxiao were to drink too much here and it affected his studies, they would bear significant blame. When Shen Wenxiao reached for the wine again, Xin Luan quickly placed her hand over his. Brother, there's no need to drink at a family banquet. Let us enjoy the dishes instead. She personally served the dishes she knew he liked into his bowl, then leaned closer, her voice lowered. Brother, our Shin family does not encourage urging wine upon guests. Shen Wenxiao regarded her. Do you fear I cannot keep up? Of course not. What is so great about wine? Once the exams are over, I will drink with you. I could manage a whole barrel. Just you? Shen Wenxiao squinted, clearly skeptical. Nevertheless, he eventually set down his wine cup and began to eat the dishes Shen Luan had served him at a leisurely pace. With Jinshi present, the atmosphere could not have been more lively. Jinshi was well acquainted with many people and effortlessly engaged Xie Ran in discussions about the customs and culture of Guangzhou. The ambience exceeded Shen Luan's expectations, lifting her spirits as she inadvertently drank a couple more cups of wine. When Shen Wenxiao noticed, he saw that Shen Luan's cheeks were flushed. She attempted to reach for the wine flask again, but Shen Wenxiao stopped her, forbidding her from drinking further. Why not? What is the harm in a girl enjoying a drink? Shen Luan licked her lips, still wanting more. It is quite good. Why should women not drink? She placed her cup in front of Shen Wenxiao, demanding, pour. Jinshi gasped. The girl was clearly tipsy already. Wenxiao, do not argue with her. She may have had too much. Jinshi tried to defuse the situation, but Shen Luan, emboldened by the alcohol, continued to push the boundaries. Brother, are you not going to pour for me? Then I shall pour for you. Her mind was in a haze, and her speech was imbued with an endearing clumsiness as she reached out to grasp the wine jug. Shen Wenxiao's hand remained motionless, and she was surprisingly able to grasp at nothingness. Don't move. Shen Wenxiao observed her with a leisurely smile. I haven't moved. Shen Luan furrowed her brow, puzzled as to why she couldn't seize it. He must have moved. All right, Luaner, let us retire for now. I anticipated your poor tolerance for alcohol, but I did not expect it to be this dismal. Jan spoke soothingly while assisting Shen Luan to her feet, and together with Zian, they escorted her back to her quarters. Only Shen Wenxiao and Xiao Ran remained at the table. Shen Wenxiao poured himself a cup of wine, drank it thoughtfully, and then lifted his gaze. I have long heard of your esteemed reputation, Brother Xiao. You achieved the rank of a 5th-grade Qianhu at a tender age, and your future is boundless. Xiao Ran gazed quietly at him. Although he was a scholar, the sharp chill emanating from him was alarming, causing Xiao Ran to suddenly have a stark contrast to the image of Shen Yuanxiu in his mind. Rumors outside suggested that Brother Xiao, in a fit of rage for a beautiful woman, was unafraid of the third prince and dared to take someone from under his nose. Many speculated about the captivating beauty of this singer, who could compel Brother Xiao to abduct her in the presence of his betrothed. Shen Wenxiao spoke with a smile, continuing to pour himself more wine, yet his eyes were icy, devoid of any mirth. However, it was of little consequence. Everyone has their moments of impulse, but such impulsiveness comes at a cost. Shen Wenxiao downed another cup, the glass clinking as it landed on the table with a crisp sound. He raised his eyes, the darkness within them sending a chill through Xiao Ran's heart. The Shen family, by comparison, was not as esteemed as the Xiao family, yet my sister Shen Wenxiao must not be wronged. Chapter 101. Foolproof. Shen Wenxiao stood, having emptied the jug before him, yet he exhibited no signs of inebriation. I have said all that I wish for today. Brother Xiao, take care of yourself. I have heard you have returned to fulfill your duties. I wish you a smooth ascent in your career and that the Shen family and you remain well. I shall take my leave. Shen Wenxiao paid no heed to Xiao Ran's response, which was unnecessary. Xiao Ran too remained silent, and after Shen Wenxiao departed, he quietly finished the remaining wine in front of him. After drinking, Shen Luan was quite manageable. Upon returning to her room, she only fidgeted for a brief moment before obediently retiring to bed. However, upon waking the next day, her head throbbed painfully. Miss, are you awake? Quickly drink this soup. Do you still feel unwell? Zian brought over a small bowl of hot soup, which Shen Luan drowsily accepted and drank in one breath, finding the warmth slightly comforting. I was. Last night, Zian chuckled softly. Miss, you should drink less in the future. Alcohol is harmful to your health, and your tolerance is quite. She covered her mouth, leaving her words unfinished as she busied herself with tidying up. Drunk? Shen Luan lifted her gaze to the roof, fragments of memories flashing before her. She recalled hugging her mother and sobbing, promising her that she would buy her numerous things in the future: land, gold, silver, precious jewels, rivers, and mountains, all to be bestowed upon her. She spun in circles with Xian, claiming that the room was spinning, insisting that if they turned in the opposite direction, the room would stop spinning. She refused to drink water, insisting on having sweets, lamenting that her brother used to hide them for her. But now they were nowhere to be found. As more memories surfaced, Shen Luan felt increasingly reluctant to get up. Is it truly that I have such poor tolerance for alcohol? I never realized in my past life, though I hardly had the opportunity to drink. With a whimper, she fell back onto the bed. Last night, she intended to discuss the engagement with Xiao Ran after the banquet, but alas, her efforts were in vain. She would have to seek another opportunity. Once upright, Shen Luan bore the throbbing ache in her head as she perused the account books sent by Manager Qiao. Thank you for your hard work. The shop is thriving, and you have made significant contributions. Manager Qiao humbly expressed his gratitude and then stepped forward. Miss, I have brought what you requested. Shen Luan raised an eyebrow. Xian, please take them to organize the storeroom. I remember there is a pair of forbidden shoes awarded by the palace. Help me find them. Shushu's birthday is approaching, and they would make an excellent gift. The maidservants in the courtyard were led away by Xian, and Manager Qiao then produced a small paper package from his bosom. This medicine is procured according to your wishes, but miss, regarding these. Shen Luan accepted it, offering a gentle smile. With the heat rising, snakes and pests will emerge in the courtyard. It needs to be cleared out. So that is the case. Shen Luan's smile was innocent. Clutching the paper package, her gentle demeanor leaving no room for suspicion in others' hearts. She had heard that her uncle was arranging a meeting between Xinyu and Chao Jin, which spared her from having to devise a plan. In her previous life, it would not be long before her face became a shattered visage. What would they discuss in this meeting? It was indeed something to look forward to. Manager Qiao, sensing something amiss, felt a shiver run through him, his gaze averting downwards. He couldn't shake the feeling that the smile on Shun San's face was unervingly radiant. Since Shun Yuanda had acquiesced to Chao Jin's request, he had been tirelessly seeking a solution. The crux of the problem lay with Xinyu, who was currently confined to the courtyard, not allowed to step outside, which posed a challenge for Shun Yuanda. After much contemplation, he decided to approach Yushur, hoping to find a pretext for her to escort Xinyu out, allowing for an arranged meeting with Chao Jin. However, Shen Yuanda did not anticipate that his plan would be unraveled by Yushur almost immediately. What does the master intend to do? Xinyu is the daughter of the second house, and she is currently under house arrest. Am I to take her out? Shen Yuanda feigned innocence. Is that inappropriate? Yushur rolled her eyes inwardly. These noblemen were utterly clueless about the affairs of the inner household. Acting on whims, she changed her tone. If the master has matters requiring my assistance, just say it directly. We are husband and wife. What can't we discuss? Thus, Shen Yuanda, feeling particularly unburdened, laid out his intentions. He felt at ease after sharing. Consider it. I have already agreed. You sure? She had always resented that the Shun family name had been overshadowed by Shen Yuanxiu. But now she had to admit that there was indeed a disparity between individuals. Why did you agree? Didn't the old madam reprimand you last time? How could you? Sighing, she thought perhaps it was a misunderstanding. You see, Chao Jin seems oblivious to the situation. If things are not clarified, he will delay in proposing, and what will become of Shen Yu's reputation? I am also thinking of the Shen family. Yushur felt a strong urge to knock some sense into his head, questioning whether he had lost his mind by complicating matters for himself. Taking several deep breaths, she finally managed to calm her anxious heart. Restoring her composure. What you say does hold some merit. I shall take care of this. Yushur pondered deeply, first needing to avoid suspicion while ensuring there was a legitimate reason. Was Shen Yuanda out of his mind? Continually creating difficulties for himself? Chao Jin received the news and, according to the schedule, went to the back room of the temple, successfully meeting Xinyu. Upon seeing him, a torrent of complex emotions surged within Xinyu. Chao Jin's expression was cold, and time was of the essence. I have important matters to discuss with you. Xinyu, are you content with your current situation in the Shen family? Hatred surged in Shen Yu's eyes as she retorted. What do you mean by that, Chao Gongzi? I know what you desire. Everything you yearn for is embodied in Shen Luan. Her status as a legitimate daughter, her standing in the household, and her impending marriage. Each aspect incites your jealousy, does it not? Chao Jin narrowed his eyes. If something were to go awry with your engagement to Xiao Ran, other daughters of the Shin family would have their chance. If you could seize that opportunity, you could attain everything you covet. What do you think? Shin Yu scrutinized Chao Jin, but what benefit does this hold for you? Why should I trust your words? Because Shin Luan is mine. Chao Jin flashed a confident smile. Only I am worthy of marrying her. Thus, she must not marry Xiao Ran. Don't you wish to enter the Xiao family? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you refuse, you may only live as an inferior concubine, marrying a destitute scholar and leading a life of poverty. Shun Yu's hands clenched tightly, her teeth biting into her lip, her eyes swirling with fear and hatred. Chao Jin did not rush her, leisurely sipping the tea on the table, which was of poor quality, yet the thought of soon possessing Shen Luan, just as in his previous life, made even the coarse tea taste slightly sweet. He was unperturbed by Shun Yu's potential refusal. Her jealousy was extraordinary. What do you want me to do? Chao Jin smiled, elegantly placing his teacup down. It's simple. I guarantee a foolproof plan. Chapter 102. Exceptionally talented Shen Luan continued her daily visits to Zhang Shi, bringing her company, which greatly improved Zhang Shi's complexion. However, whenever Xiao Ran was mentioned, Zhang Shi's expression darkened. What is he thinking? What is his plan? For others, it would be challenging to express the desire to break off the engagement due to face, leading them to leave our family early. Yet he seems perfectly at ease. Shen Luan smiled. Grandmother, young Master Xiao is a straightforward person. Though he may be reluctant, he likely considers the Shen family's reputation and wishes to wait before addressing the matter. Are you still defending him? Luaner, are you? Of course not. Shen Luan hurriedly denied it. Grandmother thinks, in just a few days, the brothers will be entering the examination hall. Such a critical moment. If a withdrawal of the engagement were to be proposed, how would it affect the brothers? Therefore, grandmother advised patience, suggesting they discuss this matter after the event has passed. You are absolutely right. Zhang nodded, feeling somewhat reassured. It seems he is not without merit. By the way, I plan to visit the temple in a couple of days to pray for the success of Jian and Wan Xiao in the imperial examinations. You should accompany me. Shen Luan smiled brightly in agreement. All right. Upon returning to her courtyard, Xian had already begun organizing the items for the temple visit. When she inquired about what Shen Luan wished to bring, Shen Luan dismissed it lightly. Just pack as you see fit. I have always trusted your judgment. Xian felt the weight of responsibility immediately. Shen Luan lowered her head, continuing to peruse her book, for she had no intention of going herself in her previous life. She had inexplicably felt unwell, and grandmother, in her compassion, allowed her to rest at home. Shen Yu then volunteered to stay behind and keep her company. The examinations of Shen Jian and Shan Wanxiao were of paramount importance to the Shen family, which is why, apart from the two of them, all the other women in the household had gone in the now empty Shen residence. Shen Luan trusted Shen Yu without hesitation and was deeply touched by her willingness to stay. Unaware that this was a splendid opportunity for Shen Yu, as Shen Luan turned a page in her book, lazily leaning against the window, she found herself feeling quite concerned for Shen Yu. In a world without Yu Ji, it seemed she could not afford to feel unwell without reason. However, it mattered little. Even without opportunities, she would create chances for Shen Yu and Chao Jin. Xiao Ran received a letter from Ganzhou, which contained a note specifically addressed to Shen Luan. After hesitating for a moment, he personally delivered the letter. Shen Luan was taken aback. For me? My father has always been quite concerned about you and often inquires about your well-being. Perhaps he heard about the events in Yinqing and thus took the effort to write to you. Shen Luan glanced at him, sensing there was more to his words than met the eye. Holding the letter, she bowed slightly in apology. At the family banquet, I was rather inebriated and may have caused some embarrassment. If I behaved inappropriately, I hope you can forgive me. Young Master Xiao, I did not anticipate that 2 cups of wine would lead to such a state. Moving forward, I shall likely avoid such occasions. She intended to take her leave when Xiao Ran called out to her. Miss Shen, regarding the previous matter, it was indeed my oversight for not considering your position. I sincerely apologize. Turning around, Shen Luan noted Xiao Ran's attire of a crisp green garment, exuding a refreshing vigor, his expression serious as he looked directly into her eyes, which held a hint of regret. Shen Luan was astonished. What merit did she possess that warranted an apology from the future illustrious Xiao Ran? Young Master Xiao did no wrong. There is no need for an apology in that instance. Only you could have escorted that young lady away and ensured her safety. Shen Luan felt no anger. Rather, she was grateful that Xiao Ran had been present that day. Her calm demeanor caused Xiao Ran to slightly clench his fists at his side. I am truly sorry for involving you in the rumors, oh. That? It has been resolved now, hasn't it? Shen Luan replied nonchalantly. The matter is now clear. The third prince and you both sought to rescue others. However, young Master Xiao acted first, hastily taking them to see the doctor, showcasing your noble heart, which is commendable. She winked at Xiao Ran, for the truth of the situation was inconsequential, as long as everyone was unharmed. It was a happy ending. Young Master Xiao need not bring it up again. Shen Luan raised the letter in her hand and turned to leave. Xiao Ran relaxed his clenched fists, feeling for the first time that if the person he were destined to marry was her, it might not be as dreadful as he had imagined, perhaps even a bit exciting. How infuriating! Shen Luan exclaimed, her chest rising and falling with agitation. Zian was startled. What is the matter, miss? Shen Luan flipped the letter over onto the table. Forcing a smile, it's nothing. Please check on the sweet soup on the stove. I have a craving for something sweet. Sweetness can lighten one's mood. The letter Xiao Ran had given her was indeed pinned by the hand of Lord Xiao. His father, a military general, had written in a strong, forceful script, filled with the affection of elders for their juniors, reminiscing about many old tales shared between him and his father, infused with a touch of melancholy. The letter also expressed hopes for an early marriage between the two, wishing for a harmonious union, thus alleviating one of his concerns. Shen Luan was deeply moved. After all these years, someone still cared for her due to the friendship with her father. A sentiment that was truly precious. Yet, within the envelope, aside from Lord Zhao's letter, there was another sheet of paper. After reading it, Shen Luan was certain that this was penned by Xiao Ran's mother. Addressed to him, "Oh dear, how intriguing!" It was yet another plea for Xiao Ran to prioritize the greater good, suggesting that even if he was unwilling, he should not offend the Shen family. There were inquiries regarding the character and appearance of a certain singer, stating that if he fancied her, she would not mind him taking her as a concubine. There were also lamentations from a mother's heart, expressing her pain at watching her son marry someone he did not love while feeling powerless. Every single word was profoundly discomforting. Such talent was indeed rare. It could not have been an accidental inclusion in the letter. It was clearly meant for her eyes. Shen Luan chuckled softly. What is the need for this? She never intended to cling to the idea of marrying into the Xiao family. No wonder in her past life, when she proposed to withdraw from the engagement, the Xiao family agreed so readily. It was clear that Xiao Madam held such deep-seated prejudice and animosity towards her, which she now fully comprehended. This was fortuitous, as she had been troubled about how to broach the subject of withdrawal. With this letter, it became much easier. Shen Luan narrowed her eyes, grasped the letter on the table, and hurried out. Xiao Ran did not expect Shen Luan to seek him out so soon. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of the letter in her hand, stirring a flicker of curiosity within him. Could it be that his father's letter contained something of significance? Young Master Xiao, while I am a woman, I prefer to act openly and decisively. Therefore, if there is something to discuss, I will not be like other women who suppress their grievances without voicing them. Her smile held no warmth. I have read the letter sent to me by the Xiao family. Would you care to take a look as well? This, since it is addressed to you, how can I? If you wish to see it, then take it. Shen Luan showed no gentleness, signaling Xiao Ran to take it quickly. He found her current demeanor amusing. It seemed this was her true self. However, as he took the letter and read the first 2 lines, all interest faded from his eyes. By the time he finished reading, he felt averted to meeting Shen Luan's gaze. Miss Shen, I must clarify this matter through correspondence. Shen Luan waved her hand dismissively. I did not come here to accuse you. Her anger had dissipated. Had she not already known that the Xiao family looked down on her? She regained her composure. I am well aware of the Xiao family's stance. Over the years, young Master Xiao has undoubtedly been troubled by this matter. And for that, I apologize. She bowed sincerely to Xiao Ran, leaving him dumbfounded. I have already discussed with my grandmother the matter of the engagement with the Xiao family. We are willing to withdraw. Xiao Ran clenched the letter in his hand, silently observing her without speaking. The Xiao family kept their promises, and the sentiment of Lord Xiao was well received by the Shen family, for which they were immensely grateful. It was precisely because of this that she did not wish for her actions to disrupt the relationship between the Shen and Xiao families. Thus, it would be best to annul the engagement. Why? Shen Luan was surprised that he would ask why. Tilting her head, she replied, What do you mean why? I never considered withdrawing from the engagement. Shun Luan's large, expressive eyes gazed at him, seemingly filled with mirth. Xiao Ran pressed his lips together, at least, not at this moment. That is truly commendable. However, the Shun family does. Shun Luan lifted her chin, gesturing towards the letter in his hand. Young Master Xiao does not naively believe that this piece of paper was accidentally delivered to me. Does he? I have clearly received the Xiao family's intentions and understand them. Do you think I am a person who is naturally inclined to suffer grievances? She smiled, her clear eyes unwavering, causing Xiao Ran to feel an awkwardness with nowhere to hide. However, I have a request, and my brother is about to take the imperial examination. I hope that the matter of withdrawing from the engagement can be brought up after the examination, so as not to distract him. Xiao Ran was at a loss for words. Shun Luan smiled. I shall take your silence as consent. Once my brother returns from his examination, young Master Xiao will be able to have your wish fulfilled, and we shall all be pleased. Having expressed all she intended to say, Shun Luan turned and left without a trace of reluctance. Not allowing him to propose the withdrawal of the engagement at this moment served another purpose. With the engagement still in place, Chao Jin would not be able to act impulsively, thus adhering to the plan from her previous life. For several consecutive days, the rain persisted. On the day of Qin Shu's birthday, the rain showed no signs of relenting. Shun Luan brought gifts to congratulate her. The Qin family held a modest gathering, inviting only a few close friends of Qin Shu. After a lively time, Qin Shu sent everyone else off and pulled Shun Luan aside, refusing to let her leave. The weather is dreadful. I feel suffocated. I want to go out, Luan. You must honestly confess. Where did you get in, fiancé? Qin Shu had been holding back for many days, her eyes wide with inquiry, her fierce expression causing Shun Luan to laugh heartily. I didn't have the chance to tell you. Are you angry? However, it matters little. My engagement to him shall soon be rendered void. Why? Shun Luan pondered, stroking her chin, perhaps due to our incompatibility. He is quite resistant to the idea, so why force a union? I wish to spend a few more years with my mother. Qin Shu puffed out her cheeks. Well, that might be for the best. I believe he is unworthy of you. Although his contention with the third prince over the singing girl was a misunderstanding, he never considered your feelings before rushing to save someone, leaving you to endure the gossip of others. It makes me want to strike someone just hearing about it. Casting aside the matter of Xiao Ran, Qin Shu and Shun Luan turned to other topics. The room filled with warmth while outside. The rain poured incessantly, creating a certain ambience. Isn't it strange? My brother has been acting completely differently these past few days. Just yesterday, he quarreled with father again. I thought father would be so furious that he would resort to corporal punishment, but guess what? My brother surprisingly compromised, not continuing to stubbornly argue. It startled me. Thankfully, he didn't suffer any physical punishment. Qin Shu patted her chest. I thought my brother had finally matured. When I asked him how he managed to endure it, he said something absurd about the injury medicine being hard to come by and needing to conserve it. Alwan, do you think father was too harsh before, and now my brother's mind is somewhat damaged? Shun Luan replied, his stockpile of medicine must be piling up. What is there to conserve? I feel a bit concerned. Qin Shu sighed, while Shun Luan's fingers gently traced the patterns on the table. How would she know? Upon leaving Qin Shu's room, Ziyun offered to drape a cloak over her, but Shun Luan declined. Ziyun anxiously insisted, my lady, Qin's room is warm, and while today is indeed pleasant, it is raining outside, and the dampness carries a chill that could easily lead to illness. No need. I feel a bit warm at the moment. Letting off some heat is just right. As she spoke, she playfully caught the raindrops falling from the umbrella, translucent beads of water sliding down her wrist and into her sleeve, much to her delight. My lady, Ziyun stamped her foot in frustration and returned to brew a bowl of ginger soup for Shun Luan. However, Shun Luan stubbornly refused to drink it, even insisting on opening the windows to listen to the rain outside. After various attempts by nightfall, Shun Luan had, as she wished, developed a fever. Ziyun's eyes brimmed with tears. It is all my fault. I should have persuaded my lady more. Shun Luan's cheeks flushed red as she laughed. It is but a small matter. Simply summon a doctor and take some medicine, and I shall be well. With her illness, even Madame Zhang came personally to check on her. Seeing her pitiable state, Madame Zhang felt both heartache and anger. How could someone of her age not take care of herself properly? Acting as if she were but a child, losing herself in joy at the mere sound of rain. Shun Luan, her face flushed, admitted, "Grandmother, I was wrong." Her apology was especially sincere, her voice hoarse, sounding as delicate as a kitten. After contemplating, Madame Zhang instructed, "You shall remain at home to rest in the following days, lest the journey exacerbates your condition. Stay put, do you understand?" Shen Luan obediently agreed, and Madame Zhang spoke with her for a while before leaving. "Ziyun, go inquire whether the fourth young lady will be attending the temple for prayers." Without hesitation, Ziyun went off to fulfill the task. Shen Luan, feeling drowsy, wrapped herself tightly in the quilt. "It would be best if Shunyu did not go. If she does, I must find a way to keep her here. However, isn't this cold a bit too severe? Before the day after tomorrow, I need to regain my spirits." Fortunately, Xinyu decided not to go, and Xin Luan, relying on her illness, requested to see her fourth sister, claiming it would be comforting to have company since they would be the only ones left in the house. Xinyu soon appeared before Xin Luan, crying like a fountain at her bedside. Chapter 104. Dare to Swear. Third Sister. Sob, sob, sob. Xin Luan let her cry, until she could weep no more, then weakly comforted, "Fourth sister, do not be sad, I am fine." Xinyu rolled her eyes inwardly. Who was worried about her? Yet, fate seemed to be assisting her. She had initially pondered how to keep Xin Luan by her side, and now she herself had fallen ill. Xinyu felt increasingly confident that Chao Jin's plan would surely succeed. "I heard that third sister is unwell, and I am deeply concerned. Rest assured, third sister, during the days when grandmother and the others are away, I will take good care of you." Xin Luan smiled sweetly. "Then I shall trouble you, fourth sister. With your company, I feel at ease." Xinyu acted particularly well, spending 2 consecutive days at Xin Luan's side, asking about her well-being, even wanting to prepare medicine for her herself. However, all matters concerning what Xin Luan consumed were entrusted to Ziyun. Even a sip of water had to be brought by her. The rules regarding third sister have become increasingly strict. In the past, she was so approachable, yet now it seems she has grown distant from her younger sister. Shen Luan returned the cup of water to Ziyun, leaning against the headboard. "Fourth sister, you have done too much. I do not dare to grow distant from you. Shun you." Shen Luan appeared to voice her thoughts carelessly, continuing to engage in idle chatter, leaving Xinyu in a daze. Shan Jian and Shun Wen's whereabouts had already been arranged for their exams. And on the day grandmother left with the others, Jian Shi came to repeatedly instruct Xin Luan. "You must take care to recover. We will return in a few days. Do not run about. Listen to the doctor." Jian Shi felt a bit uneasy, casting a glance at the obediently standing Xinyu, fearing she would plot against Shen Luan again. Shen Luan, this child, how can she repeatedly forgive Xinyu and keep her close? "Mother, do not worry. I am much better now. By the time you return, I shall be perfectly well." Despite Jian Shi's lingering concerns, she had no choice but to leave in the vast Shun household. Only Xin Luan and Xinyu remained. Once the others departed, Xinyu let out a sigh of relief, beaming as she sat by Xin Luan's bed. "Third sister, the continuous rain has ceased, giving way to fine-weathered. Grandmother's trip will surely yield her wishes." "Let us hope so." Xin Luan covered her mouth and coughed softly a few times, intending to make her younger sister endure a bit more. "Why, dear sister, we are bound by blood. What is there to worry about?" Her eyes twinkled with mischief. "Oh, by the way, third sister, did you know a theater troupe has arrived in Yin City? Each performer possesses remarkable skills. I heard there's one who can tread on blades without bleeding and even breathes fire." "Is that so? How marvelous indeed." Xinyu lowered her gaze. "Previously, grandmother was upset with me, and I had not stepped outside for a long time. I can only listen to tales of such wonders. I wish to see them with my own eyes." Xin Luan coughed again. "Fourth sister, if you desire, now that grandmother is away, you should hurry to see it. I promise not to tell them. However, such an interesting spectacle, I wish I could enjoy it alongside you. Not just alone. It leaves me feeling uneasy." Ziyun could no longer hold her tongue. "Fourth young lady, our lady is still ill. I also heard it said that only when one is in good spirits can the body heal swiftly. I am doing this for third sister's sake." Xinyu hastily explained. "Third sister, you are the only one in this household who treats me well. You are the only one who keeps me in mind. I genuinely wish for your recovery. Is that so?" Xinyu was taken aback, seeing Shen Luan's eyes unwaveringly fixed on her, devoid of any discernible emotion, and suddenly feared she might discern something from her gaze. Xinyu lowered her head. "Of course, I dare to swear. Then how shall the younger sister swear? Shen Yu's scalp tingled, inwardly cursing Shen Luan for being foolish enough to demand she swear, yet Shen Luan appeared keenly expectant. To convince her, Shen Yu reluctantly raised a hand. Heaven above, if I speak but a single falsehood, may lightning strike me. Shen Luan chuckled lightly. That's too severe. Instead, how about this? If my sister deceives me, let her suffer the consequences, for all things tend to go awry. How does that sound? I cannot bear to see my sister struck by lightning. She offered Shen Yu an encouraging glance, urging her to repeat it. Shen Yu inwardly berated her but had no choice but to comply and repeat it. Shen Luan then burst into joyous laughter. Sister, why do you take it so seriously, since you wish to see that theater troupe? I am feeling much better now, so I shall accompany you, my lady. You cannot leave the manor. Ziyun attempted to dissuade her, but Shen Luan's expression turned stern. Recently, it has become increasingly out of hand. This time, you need not accompany me. Having fourth sister look after me is sufficient. Shen Yu's heart soared with joy. Indeed, I have long wanted to say this. Third sister is too kind-hearted. All the servants around her are rather temperamental. Fear not, third sister, I will ensure you are happy. Then I shall await that. Regardless of how Ziyun apologized to Shen Luan, she did not take her along. Shen Yu supported Shen Luan into the carriage. And just before the curtain fell, the smile on her lips sent a chill down Ziyun's spine. She bit her lip, running out after the carriage. Shen Luan leaned against the carriage wall, her strength still waning. Is the theater troupe far away, fourth sister? Not far at all. We shall arrive shortly. Knowing that third sister is unwell, I specifically reserved a private room so that third sister can rest inside. I assure you, no one will disturb your peace. Fourth sister is quite considerate. Then I shall rest easy. Shen Luan gently closed her eyes, her mind haunted by the shadows of her past life that she could not dispel. Indeed, it was a secluded chamber that afforded her no interruptions. Thus, her cries of astonishment and struggles upon awakening went unheard, until Chao Jin appeared, valiantly driving away the nefarious intruder. By that time, her countenance was already marred beyond recognition. Chao Jin rescued her and concealed the indignity she had suffered, showing no concern for her disfigurement, wholeheartedly seeking her hand in marriage. One might wonder, who could remain unmoved by such devotion? Shen Luan, engulfed in despair, would seize even the faintest glimmer of redemption, believing that Chao Jin was the last light in her world. She harbored a fierce desire to eradicate the version of herself that had endured such torment in her previous life. The carriage jolted slightly, and Shen Luan opened her eyes to see Shen Yu smiling at her. Shen Luan smiled back, her beautiful visage illuminated by an enchanting grin that pierced Shen Yu's heart. In truth, she had already resolved that after this day, Shen Luan's captivating face would never again grace the world. She would become the most beautiful maiden of the Shen family, showcasing her gentlest and kindest self to capture Xiao Ran's attention. Such a splendid opportunity was one she would never let slip away. Chapter 105. Precisely, Miss Ziyin gasped for breath by the roadside when she suddenly heard someone call her name. Looking up, she saw it was Xiao Wu. Grabbing his sleeve, she asked, "Are you returning to the Guangyang Marquis' residence? I wish to see Miss Qin." "My lady, she..." A low voice came from behind her. "What has happened to her?" "We're almost there, third sister. Please disembark." Shen Yu supported Shen Luan as she alighted from the carriage. Shen Luan's complexion shifted slightly. She took a few deep breaths to suppress the lingering fear within her. Is the theater troupe inside? Indeed, it is not easy to obtain a glimpse. I devised numerous strategies to secure this. Let us hasten inside. Shen Yu was unconcerned about the flaws in her words. After all, Shen Luan was foolish and unwell. She would certainly harbor no suspicions. This was a quite renowned establishment in Yin City, where one could savor tea, host banquets, listen to stories, and enjoy music. All manner of entertainment could be found here. Making it quite lively, as Shen Yu assisted Shen Luan inside, someone promptly came to attend to them, leading them to the second floor. "Third sister, let us take a look first. If you grow weary, I shall accompany you to the rear room to rest. The tea and snacks here are delightful. Despite your illness, you may indulge in something light." Once seated on the second floor, Shen Luan felt increasingly unwell. As the items presented by the waiter were indistinguishable from her memories, the deeply buried recollections that she dared not touch began to surface, compelling her to close her eyes and breathe deeply to endure her stay. What is the matter with you, third sister? Are you feeling stifled? If you cannot endure, I shall. It is nothing. What of the theater troupe? Oh, they shall arrive shortly. The troupe performed the same pieces as in her past life, and witnessing them once more was still heart-stirring. Third sister, have a sip of water. Shen Yu offered a cup, but when Shen Luan reached out, seemingly distracted, she failed to grasp it, spilling water all over Shen Yu. Oh dear, I was too captivated. Are you all right, fourth sister? Shen Yu managed a smile. I am fine. I shall wipe myself off and return momentarily. Shen Luan's gaze returned to the stage, utterly engrossed, while Shen Yu internally scoffed at her naivete. When Shen Yu returned, Shen Luan remained in her previous state, as if she had not moved at all for ages. Is it not beautiful, third sister? Do take a sip. It would be a sin if you were to suffer from thirst. Shen Luan did not divert her eyes, nonchalantly accepting the cup and taking a few sips before passing it back. Shen Yu, with a gentle smile, placed the cup down and noticed an additional plate of her favorite pea pastries on the table. What is this? Shen Luan glanced hastily. For you. I knew you would like it. Thank you, sister. Since the meal required no expenditure of her own silver, she thought it a shame not to partake. The pea pastries were sweet and fragrant, yet they left her throat parched after overeating. Shen Yu poured herself several cups of water, feeling exceedingly satisfied. Fourth sister, I am feeling somewhat drowsy. Shen Luan suddenly rubbed her eyes, her gaze becoming a bit unfocused. Then let us retire to the rear room. Shen Yu immediately got up to assist her toward the back, her tone filled with concern. Third sister, can you manage? Once you rest well, we shall return. Shen Luan leaned heavily against her, most of her weight supported by Shen Yu, who found it increasingly arduous, beads of sweat forming on her brow after just a few steps. Third sister, bear with it a little longer. We are nearly there. I feel dizzy. Shen Luan's eyes fluttered shut, prompting Shen Yu to gather her strength and hoist her up until they finally reached the room, where Shen Yu felt lightheaded herself. We have arrived. Third sister, hurry and lie down. Shen Yu shook her head, attempting to dispel her dizziness, but the more she shook, the more pronounced it became, and her vision began to darken. Fourth sister, fourth sister. What is wrong with you? She heard Shen Luan's anxious voice calling her. Ziyin? Why are you not here? Fourth sister, wait here. I will fetch someone. Shen Yu heard nothing more, as Shen Luan stood silently beside her, expressionless, gazing at Shen Yu, who had collapsed onto the bed. Then, she removed Shen Yu's shoes, ensuring she lay comfortably, and retrieved a small, golden pair of scissors from her belongings, holding the cold, sharp scissors that gleamed ominously. Shen Luan understood why they had so thoroughly marred her face. The servants they had brought were nowhere to be found, and Shen Luan knew she had to act swiftly, for there were still other acts to unfold. With her right hand gripping the scissors, she traced her fingers along her face, from the corner of her eye down to the bridge of her nose. The grotesque scar that had once marred her visage was no longer present. It ought to return to the one who had inflicted it upon her, the very person who had caused her a lifetime of self-loathing and mere survival. I shall return it to you in kind. But rest assured, it shall be neither more nor less than what you have given me. Stepping out of the room, Shen Luan moved to a shadowy corner, yearning to witness firsthand the horrors she had endured. Her trembling hand, still cloaked within her sleeve, bore traces of crimson, sending chills throughout her body. Suddenly, a hand reached from behind, clamping over Shen Luan's mouth. Her startled cry was stifled, nearly causing her spirit to flee. It is I. The low voice brought Shen Luan back to her senses, but her legs felt weak, unable to support her. Qin Gu steadied her waist to prevent her from collapsing. Did I frighten you? Qin Gu assessed Shen Luan's pallid face, his gaze sweeping over her blood-stained sleeve. Shen Luan, still reeling, unconsciously clutched at Qin Ji's clothing. What are you doing here? And you? I? Shen Luan's hand continued to tremble, prompting Qin Gu to grasp it, frowning. Why Shen Luan suddenly felt an urge to laugh, as if witnessing an incredibly absurd play, so poorly executed that it aimed merely to attract attention. Well, it is time for us to leave. Shen Luan heard Qin Ji's deep voice fading into the distance, her eyelids growing heavier. It is not yet over. She has yet to see Chao Jian drive away the villains, nor has she witnessed those he lured discovering that he saved Shen Yu. She has yet to. The body in Qin Ji's arms suddenly lost all its strength, causing him to panic and hurriedly cradle her. Swiftly departing, Shun Luan awoke in her own chamber, gazing vacantly at the delicate, embroidered ginger-colored bed drapery, her mind seemingly frozen, as if she had returned here after her own demise. Why, lady, you have finally awakened. Xian's sobs jolted Shin Luan back to reality. Indeed, it was reminiscent of her previous cries. Just as Shin Luan attempted to utter a sound, she was startled. How had her voice transformed like this? My lady, please refrain from speaking. The doctor instructed that you must rest well and must not become emotionally agitated. Please drink some water. Xian, still with tears on her face, cautiously helped Shin Luan sit up. Offering a cup of water, her voice choked with sobs, Shin Luan took a few sips, finding some relief for her burning throat. Luaner has awakened. Jin Shi rushed in, and upon seeing Shin Luan's still pale face, her heart ached uncontrollably. She hurried to her side and gently grasped Shin Luan's hand. Thank heavens, may the Buddha bless, you have finally awakened. I shall send someone to inform the old lady, lest she worry incessantly. Mother, how could I? Jin Shi patted her hand, reassuring her that it was enough she had awakened. Other matters could wait until she fully recovered, but Shin Luan could not wait. Where is fourth sister? Jin Shi's gaze flickered, and despite her usual eloquence, she found herself at a loss for words. Shin Luan felt restless, urgently wanting to know what had become of Shin Yu and Chao Jin. Would Chao Jin recognize the person inside as Shin Yu and leave before anyone discovered it? If that were the case, would Chao Jin emerge unscathed? The urgency in her eyes conveyed a different meaning to Jin Shi. Jin Shi sighed heavily, gently stroking Shin Luan's soft, shiny-haired Luaner. Your mother understands the bond you share with you, girl. However, this time, it may be her misfortune. The incident originated with her. Both your grandmother and I have heard that she insisted on dragging you to see some theater troupe despite your illness, resulting in her sudden discomfort, and you had to rush out to find a doctor for her, exacerbating your own sickness and nearly causing you to faint in the street. Had it not been for the fortunate encounter with the young Marquis of Guangyang, the consequences would have been unimaginable. You girl has also met with ill fate. In her desire for freedom, she sent away her servants, only to encounter villains. Fortunately, she was rescued by someone familiar. Do not fret. Once you have recovered, you can visit her. Shan Luan lowered her head to gaze at the floral quilt, realizing that her current predicament mirrored her past life, unchanged in any way. Jian Shi, believing she was frightened, quickly laughed and diverted the conversation. You are still unwell. It is my fault for saying so much. We owe much to the young Marquis of Guangyang. Once you recover, I shall personally take you to express our gratitude. Jin Shi helped her lie down and tucked in the covers, urging her to rest well. Shin Luan obediently closed her eyes, but once Jin Shi left, she opened them wide again, hoarsely imploring, Xian, what on earth happened? Please explain it to me, piece by piece, my lady. I shall not rush you. Please, go on. Xian hesitated, but Shin Luan's unwavering gaze compelled her to recount the events. It was Chao Jin, the young master, who saved fourth miss. He happened to be there that day. However, it is said that just as he intended to call for help, he was confronted by a group of young masters heading to enjoy music, which led to the discovery of fourth miss lying in the room, disheveled and bloodied, nearly leading them to believe Chao Jin had harmed her. He was taken to the authorities, where the truth was finally revealed. He had saved fourth Mississippi. After 2 days of silence, her awakening confirmed his words. The family is currently negotiating fourth Miss's marriage with the Chao family. You see, my lady, you may not know, but that Chao Jin was rather perplexing. When he was discovered, he insisted that the person inside was you. But by then, you had already been taken to the medical hall by the young Marquis of Guangyang. How many could vouch for that? Is he not a bit daft? Fortunately, you were not there. Or else if you had encountered those villains as well. Xian shivered at the thought, quickly clasping her hands together and bowing towards the window. In any case, this matter does not concern you. It was fourth miss who insisted on taking you out of the manor, and the location was chosen by her. One can only say that fourth miss has had a stroke of ill fortune. She has a long wound on her face. Xian's eyes brimmed with sympathy. Shin Luan, having gleaned nearly everything she wished to know, gradually closed her eyes. Observing this, Xian quietly slipped out, closing the door to allow Shin Luan to rest undisturbed. At Zhang's residence, the old maidservant brought the medicinal soup to her, reminding her that the old lady must not become agitated. What did the doctor say? He advised you to remain calm and composed. avoiding any surges of qi and blood. This household still relies on your support. Chapter 107. Heaven above. Zhang received the bowl of medicine, her expression unfaltering as she drank it down. With such ungrateful offspring, how can I remain at peace? Fourth Miss's temperament is indeed rather unruly. She insists on dragging Third Miss, who is still ill, everywhere. However, Fourth Miss has learned a significant lesson this time. I trust she will mend her ways in the future. She has brought this upon herself. If she had not left the manor, would she have encountered such misfortune? Zhang's breath grew heavier, prompting the old maidservant to soothe her once more. What did Chao Jin say? Reporting to the old lady, he expressed his willingness to marry Fourth Miss, showing no disdain for her misfortune. How dare he express disdain? Zhang slammed her hand on the table, exclaiming that the situation was still unclear. What a coincidence! Our Shin family's daughters can meet Chao Jin wherever they go. Would you believe it? How can a mere scholar frequently frequent such places for leisure? Yet, Shin Yu's explanation left Zhang with little room to investigate further. It would be best to resolve these trivial matters swiftly. As for this marriage proposal, I have nothing more to say. Let the Chao family expedite their actions, and regarding the Xiao family, since Xiao Ran has not mentioned it, we shall take the initiative. Zhang is now eager to clarify the marriage prospects for the girls in the family. Old lady, young master Xiao has entered the palace. Then we shall wait for his return. In the Shin family's second household, Shen Yu's chamber was eerily silent, as if devoid of life. Shen Yu sat before her dressing table like a phantom, the mirror turned face down. Her complexion was ashen, her face wrapped in cloth, the pungent smell of medicine making her feel nauseous. After a while, she trembled as she extended her hand cautiously toward the mirror, suddenly flipping it over. Half of her face was bandaged. Shen Yu's eyes widened as she stared for a moment before letting out a scream, sending the mirror crashing to the ground with a clatter. Impossible. This cannot be real. This cannot be. She shakily touched her cheek, the sting shattering her hopes. Indeed, her face had been ruined. It was she who lay in that room, subjected to the villain's malice. Creak. The door swung open, and Xin Ling stood at the threshold without stepping inside. What is fourth sister doing now? Day after day, does she never tire of this? I've already said that if you wish, I would help you remove the mirror, yet you refuse. Xin Yu seemed oblivious to her words. Her eyes still filled with madness. You cannot blame others. Third sister nearly fainted in the street searching for a doctor for you, having fallen gravely ill only just awoken. Fourth sister is fortunate. Even in such a state, someone is willing to marry you. You ought to be grateful. A fierce glare suddenly ignited in Shin Yu's eyes as she seized the fallen mirror and hurled it toward the door with all her might. Get out! Shin Ling barely dodged it, startled and instantly changing her demeanor. You dare to speak to me like that? You deserve whatever happens to you. Who knows if you and that scholar arranged to meet privately, dragging third sister along against her will. Even with your face in such a state, he still wishes to marry you. Fourth sister is rather fortunate, is she not? With a loud bang, Shun Ling slammed the door shut and left, leaving Shen Yu in the room, clutching her head and releasing a piercing scream. He should not be like this. It was the villain's malice. It was she who ruined her own face. It was Chao Jian who plotted against her. It should have been Shan Luan. It should have been her. Where did it all go wrong? Everything had been progressing so smoothly. She was on the verge of achieving her desires, to ruin Shan Luan's repulsive face. Why did the anticipated scars in her heart ultimately manifest on her own face, almost in the exact same spot? Shen Yu, in a daze, raised her head and stared blankly at her hands. A familiar voice echoing in her mind. Heaven above, if I had even the slightest intention other than for third sister's good, may I suffer the consequences, may all my desires be thwarted. At the Chao residence, Chao Jin's mother was brought to Yin City ahead of schedule by him, originally to avoid any delays in arranging his marriage to Xinluan. Ajin, while the Xin family boasts a respectable lineage, the woman you intend to marry is but a concubine's daughter, and her reputation is marred, not to mention her disfigured countenance. Why, then, would you still wish to take her as your wife? Aunt Chao expressed her discontent. For the family has supported your education with the hope that you would achieve success. Such a significant matter as marriage should be approached with careful consideration. How could you have agreed so hastily? Chao Jin's expression darkened. The Shen family is indeed scholarly, and the maternal uncle of the matriarch is the Marquis of Changxin. so marrying a daughter of the Shen family would greatly benefit me. Yet, I cannot marry such a fallen woman. Is she the only daughter of the Shen family? Were she unblemished, it might be different, but in her current state, would it not be a source of ridicule? But not marrying her would bring ridicule as well. Chao Jin's tone was impatient. Mother, please refrain from further discussion. Just proceed as planned. His anger and anxiety were no less than anyone else's, nearly causing his head to explode. However, at this juncture, he did not wish to forfeit the support from the Shen family. Apart from marrying Xinyu, he had no alternative. Why was the person in that side room Xinyu? Why did everything mirror his past life, with only the individuals differing? Initially, he had not perceived the oddity, but later discovered that those blocking his way were not his prior arrangements, but a group of young lords who had come to listen to music. All of whom were inebriated and utterly unconcerned. He had claimed that the person inside was Shen Luan, asserting that he had rescued her from danger, only for them to burst into laughter. Questioning whether he too had drunk too much, as they had just seen Shen Luan, who had collapsed in the street and was taken to the doctor by Qingji at a tea that moment. Chao Jin was truly alarmed. How could it be? Who was the bloodied figure inside, obscured from view? The group urged a maid to enter for verification, and she emerged in shock, declaring that it was the fourth daughter of the Shen family. Chao Jin's legs nearly buckled. How could it be Xinyu? The similarity of the situation reminded him of the last time at the estate. Could it truly be mere coincidence, having repeatedly failed? Might there be another reason? Later, upon inquiring further, he learned that Shen Luan had fallen ill and was brought out by Xinyu. Xinyu had suddenly felt unwell, prompting Shen Luan to rush out in search of a doctor, only to faint when discovered, a fact that the medical staff could attest to, leaving no room for deceit. It could only be coincidence, an uncanny one at that. Chao Jin was at a loss as to whom he should blame. In this predicament, he was already on the edge, compelled to express his sincerity in seeking to marry Xinyu. Otherwise, he would entirely lose the Shen family's support and deviate from the trajectory of his past life. Despite Chao Jin's reluctance and regrets, it was futile, damn it. He slammed his fist onto the writing desk, his countenance darkened to the extreme. Xinyu, this incompetent fool, could not even manage this simple matter. Shen Luan was gravely ill, and even when Shen Wenxiao returned after his examinations, she remained bedridden. I was gone for just a few days, and you've let things come to this? Shen Wenxiao frowned, looking as stern as an old scholar. Chapter 108. Reciprocity and Etiquette. Shen Luan smiled weakly, claiming she had only caught a chill, and the doctor assured her it was nothing serious. Brother, do you have confidence this time? Think more about yourself. Shen Wenxiao admonished. I've told you countless times, yet you remain oblivious, nearly causing a calamity. I thought you had finally gained some sense, but it appears not, Shen Luan. But I'm still a patient. Dear brother, I know I was wrong. Shen Luan, feeling aggrieved, accepted her fault, as Shen Wenxiao had rushed over to scold her upon his return. Good brother, that term belongs to others. Having been ill for some time, Shen Luan's cheeks had grown gaunt. Shen Wenxiao's gaze swept over her pale face, and he tossed a pale yellow silk pouch onto her quilt. What is this? Curiously, Shen Luan opened it, and a sweet fragrance wafted out. How fortunate you remembered I had hidden candy for you. Still thinking of sweets at your age. Shen Wenxiao, feeling fatigued, came to ensure Shen Luan was well and quickly returned to his own quarters to rest. Shen Luan retrieved a piece of candy from the pouch, unwrapped it, and placed it in her mouth. The rich sweetness melted on her tongue, evoking memories she thought she had long forgotten in her childhood. She shared a close bond with Shen Wenxiao. Afraid of bitter medicine, she would refuse to take her medicine, no matter how Gold tried to coax her. Shen Wenxiao had mysteriously procured delicious candies, claiming they were gifts from fairies that he had saved for her, promising her a piece for each dose of medicine she took. Shen Luan believed him, and after obediently taking her medicine, she was rewarded with a piece of candy, which hastened her recovery, further reinforcing her belief. Later, she discovered that those candies were quite expensive, and young Shen Wenxiao had spent all his money on them. Well, my brother is quite good. Shen Luan smiled, shaking her head, chewing on the candy while picking up her book again, feeling lighter than ever. As Shen Luan's health began to improve, the engagement between Xinyu and Chao Jin was already established. So soon? Shen Luan changed into a new outfit sent by Gold. Such a joyous occasion warranted her congratulations to her fourth sister. Zian looked at her oddly. Miss, perhaps you ought not to go. The fourth girl has been injured and is unwilling to see anyone. She has been injured? Then I must go and comfort her. We are sisters, and times like these are when sisterhood truly matters. Just like in her past life, Shunyu had been by her side daily, gradually shattering her last remnants of hope, leaving her devoid of any expectation for the future. Reciprocity and etiquette is indeed the principle. Shenluan made her way to Shenyu's courtyard and encountered Shenling on the way. She greeted her, expecting Shenling to ignore her as usual, but to her surprise, Shenling stopped her. Third sister, you come to visit Shenyu. It is commendable that you think of her so soon after your recovery, but I must warn you, she is like a different person now, quite terrifying. So you should prepare yourself. Thank you for the warning, second sister. Shenling did not move aside. By the way, are you aware that young Master Xiao Ran is now a member of the Jinui? Appointed by the emperor himself, the news has spread throughout Yin City. Surely, he is destined for great advancement. Shenluan's expression remained undisturbed. Is that so? I was unaware while I was ill. Such a pity. It was such a fine match. Why did grandmother have to call it off? Shenling lamented, shaking her head, her eyes glinting with a hint of schadenfreude, though she tried to mask it. I thought grandmother favored you most. But it seems otherwise. Do not blame the heavens too much. This is simply the fate we women must bear. What is yours will ultimately be yours. That which is not yours cannot be taken. Shenluan nodded thoughtfully, a smile suddenly gracing her face. You are quite right, second sister. What is yours will ultimately be yours. That which is not yours cannot be taken. Shenling. Why does it feel like there is something peculiar in her words? Shenluan had already entered the courtyard with Ziyin, surprised at how decisively grandmother had called off the engagement, which had saved her considerable trouble. Arriving at Shunyu's door, Shenluan gently knocked. But there was no response. Fourth sister, are you in there? I've come to see you. Suddenly, a clattering sound came from within, and footsteps approached the door, which swung open. The sunlight from outside illuminated Shunyu's face, causing her to squint before she opened her eyes, revealing unmistakable hatred. Shenluan gasped in alarm. Fourth sister, your face. Shunyu's wounds no longer required bandaging, yet she was still applying medicine. The dark brown ointment covering her scar was glaringly obvious and grotesque. How could this happen? Shenluan sighed, relieved that Shunyu's life was not in danger. I've heard it was fortunate that young Master Chao arrived just in time. You two seem to have quite a connection. Shunyu's venomous gaze fixed on Shenluan. Doesn't the third sister feel any guilt upon seeing me like this? Fourth sister. Why do you say that? Shenluan feigned innocence. While I do feel pity for you, is your misfortune truly my fault? Of course it is your fault. Shenyu screamed internally. My plight should have been yours to bear. This hideous scar should have marred your beautiful, loathsome face. Your very existence is a mistake. And yet, Shenluan remains unscathed, her beauty still radiant, clad in light garments that emphasize her fair skin and bright eyes, while this scar marred my own face. Shenyu's eyes glinted like a venomous snake, sending chills down one's spine. Shenluan appeared oblivious, her lovely visage adorned with a gentle, kind smile. Never mind. I understand you are upset about your injury, and as your sister, I shall not hold it against you. In a few days, you will be married. I only hope you can temper your temper. Otherwise, life will be quite difficult. Do not concern yourself. Shenluan's words were sincere. Did she think the Chao family was a paradise? Yet, if they did not appreciate her, so be it. Shenluan appeared somewhat wounded, as it seemed that her fourth sister was truly venting her anger upon her. Very well, she had initially thought that. Given their sisterly bond, she ought to express her sentiments on the occasion of her sister's marriage. This would also spare her sister any displeasure, having witnessed the injuries on Shunyu's face with her own eyes. And having heard the confirmation of Shunyu's engagement to Chao Jin, it was no mere dream. Shenluan departed without a trace of longing, having already encountered this very scene in her dreams multiple times. Each time she believed she had finally avenged her grievances, only to awaken and discover it was but an illusion. Yet now, she had finally taken her first step out into reality. This was indeed worthy of celebration. Chapter 109. Perhaps it is best to speak frankly upon returning to the courtyard. Janshur summoned her Dalwaner. You are now quite recovered from your illness. I have prepared some tokens of gratitude and sent an invitation to the Guangyang Marquis residence. Tomorrow, you shall accompany me there. Shenluan's hand clenched suddenly, her tone somewhat unnatural. Go. To express thanks. Jane Shi led her to a table, laden with a plethora of items. Indeed, if it were not for the heir of the Guangyang Marquis, you might have faced dire consequences. We must surely express our gratitude. Look, is this enough? Shen Luan circled the table once. There was indeed an abundance of items. Antique artifacts, paintings, weapons, gold, silver, and supplements, everything imaginable. Jan Shi frowned in discontent. I cannot shake the feeling that our sincerity may fall short. Will the heir of the Guangyang Marquis think that the Shen family does not value you? No, Kaiyue, go back to the storeroom and bring out that chicken wing wood brocade double-sided screen. Shen Luan hurriedly stopped her. Mother, this is sufficient. The Guangyang Marquis residence has always upheld a reputation of integrity. If you present such lavish gifts, others might think something monumental has transpired. But is it not monumental? Jan Shi embraced Shen Luan. Your grandmother and I were nearly faint with shock upon hearing of your ordeal, but thankfully you are safe. The heir of the Guangyang Marquis delivered you to the physician in a timely manner, even injuring his hand and accidentally staining your sleeve with his blood. When I saw that, I nearly lost my wits, fearing the worst. Shen Luan's heart tightened, her thoughts drifting back to that day. Qin Ge must have known what he was doing. Her frail form had been of little use, but Qin Ji's presence had sustained her until Chao Jian arrived. Vague memories surged forth of Qin Ji's arm across her waist, preventing her from sliding away, her back pressed tightly against his chest. In her nervousness, she had unconsciously gripped his fingers with a deathly tightness. He had suddenly leaned in, pressing his face close, realizing she was burning with fever. Luaner, why is your face so red all of a sudden? Jin Shi grew anxious. Is it that you have not fully recovered? Kaiyue, hurry and fetch the doctor again. Shen Luan snapped back to reality, once more interjecting, I am well, truly well. It is merely a bit stuffy in here. Tomorrow, I shall accompany mother to the Guangyang Marquis residence. What is meant to come will indeed come. Since Qin Ge had seen her emerge from the chamber that day, he would certainly have questions. Perhaps this was for the best. Shen Luan's expression became subdued. They were never meant to walk the same path. The next day, Shen Luan and Jin Shi arrived at the Guangyang Marquis residence, laden with gifts. Shen Luan felt relieved that her mother had not included the screen, for otherwise, their cart would have certainly been insufficient. The Marquis was aware of their visit and welcomed them alongside the Marquis wife. You come to visit, yet you bring gifts. Has our relationship grown so distant? Madame Su smiled gently, pulling Shen Luan close with warm praise. Luan, you have truly blossomed. You are now a young lady. Such matters, anyone would assist if able, especially since Qin Ge and you have known each other since childhood. It would not be an exaggeration to call you childhood sweethearts. Helping one another is only natural. There is no need for such formality. Jan Shi smiled sincerely. While that may be true, our family is uncertain how to express our gratitude to the heir. Just the thought of what might have happened had we not encountered him sends my heart racing. The adults engaged in idle chatter, while Madame Su suggested that Shen Luan seek out Qin Shu in the back. Shu had been waiting eagerly, even arranging a feast from outside. In a moment, we shall dine with your mother. You young ones can amuse yourselves. As Shen Luan exited, making her way to Qin Shu's courtyard, she unexpectedly encountered Xiao Ji. To her surprise, she felt no astonishment. Your Grace. Shen Luan greeted him with polite decorum, and Qin Gu raised an eyebrow. It has been some time, and you do not recognize me? Shen Luan looked up, her beautifully shaped eyes meeting his. You have many questions for me. Your Grace? There were indeed many questions, but he had not anticipated the distance that had grown between them. Before we proceed, let us address this matter. Qin Ge maintained the familiar demeanor that Shen Luan remembered, devoid of any change which made her uncertain. How could he act as if nothing had occurred? Qin Ge, he smiled, his eyes sparkling with mirth. Qin Yu has already gone to Shu. Let us find another place to converse. Shen Luan followed behind Qin Gu, watching his broad back, struggling to suppress the urge to turn and flee. It would be fine. Even if he criticized her for her harshness, she could simply avoid appearing before him in the future. Shen Luan steadied her resolve, silently encouraging herself, and no matter the outcome, she must not lose her composure. She had done nothing wrong. This was merely Shen Yu's comeuppance. This spot is quite pleasant. It will not expose you to the sun. Young ladies are particularly concerned about sun exposure, fearing it will darken their complexion. Furthermore, it is well ventilated. ensuring it is not stifling. Shen Luan looked up, and Qin Gu had led her to a pavilion. The structure was nestled in a corner, not easily visible from the side, yet within it, one could behold the surrounding scenery. The pavilion was draped with sheer curtains, keeping mosquitoes at bay while allowing the breeze to circulate freely. Qin Gu stepped forward, personally lifting the curtain for Shen Luan, following her inside before letting it fall behind him. The servants remained outside, ensuring they would not interrupt their conversation. In the center of the pavilion, a stone table was set with a tea tray and fresh fruits. Shen Luan looked up. Did Qin Gu wait specifically for me? Qin Gu seated himself on a stone bench at the table. Did I get discovered? The tea was still warm, having just been procured from the ninth prince, and was said to be devoid of any bitterness. Though give it a taste. The golden tea was poured into a white porcelain cup, resembling a handful of sunlight. Shen Luan took a sip. Indeed, it was fragrant, yet at that moment, knowing that Qin Gu had come expressly to find her, she had no heart for savoring the tea. Your Grace, if you have something to say, please speak plainly. You are not one to beat around the bush. Qin Gu pushed the fruit towards her. Would you not care for a taste? These were freshly sent from the estate. No, thank you. Shen Luan's gaze was steady. The sensation felt torturous. Qin Gu withdrew his hand. Then I will ask directly. Shen Luan's shoulders, along with her back, tensed slightly, her grip on her handkerchief tightening unconsciously. Qin Gu observed this. His throat moving slightly. Shen Luan had clutched his fingers in such a manner that day as well. Has your health fully recovered? Shen Luan seemed momentarily lost, a flicker of confusion crossing her eyes. After a brief pause, she nodded gently. Yes, I am well. Before speaking, one must care for one's health. It was evident that what he wished to discuss was of considerable weight. Qin Gu continued. The physician was alarmed that day and immediately prepared medicine to administer to you. Your forehead was so hot it felt scalding. The doctor said that had it been delayed any longer, it could have become dangerous. Thankfully, nothing serious transpired. Chapter 110. Coincidence? Do you believe it? Shen Luan steadied her breathing, awaiting him to address the matter at hand. However, he continued speaking in relation to her health. The physician mentioned that your constitution is naturally cooler than others, thus even in warm weather, you must avoid excessive coolness, lest it lead to lingering ailments. Shen Luan raised her gaze and Qin Gu blinked, smiling as he asked, What troubles you? Your Grace, let us speak plainly. I am well aware of my own condition. Speak plainly? Am I not being clear? Qin Gu pondered for a moment. I worry that you might be too distraught to remember the physician's advice. You must take care of your health and heed certain precautions. Is this truly what you wish to discuss? Otherwise, what do you think I would say? Qin Gu regarded her with an air of calm. His eyes, which slightly curved at the corners, held a gentle light that was unmistakably bright and unguarded. Shen Luan's grip tightened further. She was uncertain whether Qin Gu was jesting or if there was a deeper intention behind his words. She bit her lip with force, leaving a mark of white. Is what you wish to inquire not about what transpired in that chamber? Is it not about what befell Shen Yu that day? What concern is it of mine? A fire seemed to ignite within Shen Luan's eyes, threatening to consume her reason entirely. Qin Gu, while marveling inwardly, felt a flicker of delight, speculating that her sudden fierceness stemmed from a concern for his reaction to the incident. How endearing! Qin Gu could not suppress the smile curling at his lips. It was no surprise to see Shen Luan grow even more fierce, her eyes wide as if they could devour him whole. Given how angry you are, it seems you have truly recovered. Qin Ji's smile deepened. What does Shen Yu's matter have to do with me? Why should I inquire about her? Did Brother Qin truly remain oblivious to the happenings within the Shen family? Shen Luan let out a soft snort. Shen Yu was subjected to the lewd advances of nefarious individuals in the private room of the tavern, and her face bears the marks of injury. How could you possibly be unaware? Did you not see me emerge from that very room? Do you not feel that it was I? Do you not feel? Qin Gu extended his arm, gently touching the cup before her. The tea is growing cold. The doctor advised you to drink plenty of water. It is beneficial for your health. Shen Luan was nearly choked by her breath, stubbornly fixing her gaze on Qin Gu. Why do you not feel anything? Just take a sip of water, and I will tell you. All right? The tone that seemed to coax a child made Shen Luan take several deep breaths. She seized the cup and gulped it down, slamming it back onto the table with a loud thud. Her childish action elicited an involuntary laugh from Qin Gu, however, Noticing Shen Luan's increasingly grave expression, he quickly composed himself and stated earnestly, I witnessed her placing something in the tea she intended for you, but you saw through her scheme. Thus, this trap was originally laid out for you, was it not? Shen Luan's complexion paled, as if a bone had been extracted from her back. Chao Jin had long lurked in the shadows, waiting. That so-called nefarious individual had prior dealings with him. Earlier, Chao Jin had secluded himself with Shunyu in a private room at a temple, likely already contemplating what to do with you at that moment. Shen Luan's eyes widened in disbelief. How could you possibly know all this? If I were to say it was merely a coincidence, would you believe me? Qin Gu smirked, observing her reaction. Shen Luan pondered for a long while but remained silent. She believed him. Believed him, indeed. Are you wary of Chao Jin? Why? He is merely a scholar. Qin Gu shrugged. Perhaps he possesses a face that is inherently unlikable? It was precisely due to Shen Luan's unusual concern for him that Qin Gu had specially instructed others to monitor Chao Jin's every move. Thus, he discerned that Chao Jin was indeed a curious individual, a mere scholar, yet inexplicably fixated on the Shen family. He had transformed from an obscure figure into someone almost unrecognizable. Reports from those surveilling him indicated that Chao Jin had even attempted to contact the third prince. Yet how could the third prince lower himself to meet with a mere scholar? Shen Luan had not anticipated that Chao Jin and Shen Yu's scheme had laid bare before Qin Gu. No wonder he was unfazed. However, Shen Luan pinched her fingertip, her complexion devoid of color. That day, I was in the private room. Regardless of what you did, it was for self-preservation. No one has the right to pass judgment. Qin Gu interrupted her, tilting his chin toward her fingers. Stop pinching. It will hurt if you continue. Shen Luan paused, grasping his meaning, and suddenly released her grip. Qin Gu jokingly tapped his fingers lightly on the stone table. If you truly wish to pinch something, I wouldn't mind lending you a hand. His hands were large with long fingers, short yet rounded nails, and even resting lightly on the table, they exuded a sense of latent power. Shen Luan stole a glance and quickly averted her gaze, flustered. Goodness, he was deliberately placing his hands in front of her. The image of Qin Ji's hands flooded her mind, even conjuring the memory of that day at the tavern when his hand encircled her waist. Shen Luan was struck with a sudden realization. How could she entertain such thoughts? Shu must be waiting anxiously. I shall go find her. Shen Luan hastily departed, stumbling slightly as she exited the pavilion, causing Ziyin to rush over to steady her. Qin Gu remained seated in the pavilion, observing Shen Luan's somewhat flustered silhouette through the gauzy curtain, a low chuckle escaping his lips. There's something different about my hands? He mused, lifting his hand to inspect it closely. Initially uncertain, he had wondered if he was merely overthinking it. However, after several instances, Qin Gu subtly sensed that Shen Luan was quite averse to looking at his hands. Each time their eyes met, she would quickly avert her gaze as though scalded by fire, her ears inevitably turning crimson. This was indeed quite amusing. Miss, please wait for me, Ziyin chased after Shen Luan. Breathless, finally catching up as the warmth on Shen Luan's face had nearly dissipated. Miss, shall we not wait for the young master? Wait for him for what? I am here to find Shu. Did we not come to express our gratitude to the young master? Shen Luan faltered, her gaze turning vacant. Oh right, regardless of the circumstances, I should thank Qin Gu today. If it weren't for him, my fate might not have been as fortunate. He even told the people of the Shen residence that he encountered me on the street, extricating me from this predicament entirely. A word of thanks should still be offered. Perhaps I shall wait until I am about to leave the residence. Shen Luan deceived herself, choosing not to dwell on the matter as she made her way to Qin Shu's location. The courtyard was bustling with commotion. That doesn't count. Third brother, let us have another round. Qin Shu's exasperated shout echoed from the courtyard, and upon entering, Shen Luan saw Qin Yu leaning against a tree, grinning broadly. Another few rounds will yield the same result. What else do you have left to lose? I have plenty of good things. Qin Shu's tone abruptly shifted from bravado to excitement. Alwan. Shen Luan smiled as she approached, catching Qin Shu as she leapt toward her. The strain in her legs had not yet fully recovered, causing her to stumble back a step. Suddenly, someone supported her from behind, steadying her in place. Qin Shu looked up. Second brother, you are here too. Wonderful. You must help me take revenge. The support behind Shan Luan vanished, and Qin Gu playfully tapped Qin Shu's forehead with his finger. Luan has just recovered from her illness. You should exhibit some semblance of a gentleman. Shan Luan felt an inexplicable warmth creeping up her back. What was he calling her? However, Qin Shu remained oblivious to any peculiarity. Hastily checking Shan Luan's cheek, "It is my fault. It is my fault. Luan, are you all right? Why do you still feel a bit warm? Did we not say you were better? I might have dressed a bit too warmly today. But I am indeed well now. Second brother, you must help me win back what I lost to third brother. I shall converse with Luan over there." Qin Shu assigned the task, pulling Shan Luan to a shaded area under a tree. A spacious low couch woven from vines was set up with a low table, an array of tea and snacks laid out before them, and a small incense burner in the corner emitting a faint fragrance. Qin Shu settled Shan Luan down, and not far from them lay a pot containing several arrows, some scattered about. Third brother lacks any other skills, but he excels at throwing arrows. I have never beaten him once. He cannot even shoot an arrow. Is this reasonable? Qin Shu's frustration had yet to dissipate as she pointed to the items on the small table beside Qin Yu. Did you see that? Those are all the items I wagered. Can he honestly claim he feels guilty about taking them? How can a brother be like this? Shan Luan was amused by her antics, her laughter ringing like silver bells, drawing Qin Ji's attention, causing a slight itch in his ears. Upon seeing Qin Gu, Qin Yu's smile transformed into a more earnest and honest expression. "Brother, what are we even competing for? Everything is yours. Take it all." He had merely been teasing Qin Shu. Qin Gu raised an eyebrow, finding it amusing that he might feel ashamed of being outdone. "Brother, I would never think that." "Then it is settled. Since Shu wishes for assistance in reclaiming her losses, we cannot disappoint her, correct?" Qin Yu struggled for a moment, finally managing to utter, "Right?" Watching Qin Yu begin to roll up his sleeves, Qin Yu genuinely wanted to ask what his motive was. After all, he was bound to lose anyway. Why waste the effort? But Qin Yu dared not ask. He was timid. Qin Gu stood tall and imposing, rolling up his sleeves high, retrieving an arrow from the nearby quiver. Raising his arm, the taut muscles of his forearm exuded strength and definition. With a gentle flick of his wrist, the arrow traced a beautiful arc through the air, landing steadily in the pot. Qin Gu maintained a calm demeanor. "Isn't it impressive?" Turning his head, he noticed Qin Shu animatedly chatting with Shan Luan, completely oblivious to him. Qin Gu lightly blinked, reassuring himself that there were still many arrows left. She would eventually notice. At the moment Qin Ji's gaze shifted, Shan Luan promptly withdrew her attention, focusing intently on Qin Shu. "I was so frightened. Thankfully, you are unharmed. I never expected such nefarious individuals to appear in that tavern. Now, the authorities have dispatched many to patrol the streets, claiming they will apprehend that scoundrel and bring him to justice. Let us hope so." Qin Shu lowered her voice. "Luan, did Shin Yu truly sustain an injury to her face?" Shan Luan hesitated, her hand pausing as she reached for her cup, before finally lifting it to take a small sip, cradling it in her hands. "Yes, she was injured. Oh dear, how pitiful. She is so concerned about her appearance. One cannot blame others, though I heard she insisted on dragging you to see the theater troupe." Shan Luan inquired curiously, "Who told you this?" "It is common knowledge in Yin City. That day, my brother encountered you on the street, and many witnessed it. Ziyin was present as well." Once explained, everyone was aware. Qin Shu curled her lips, aware that the elders at home were absent and you were unwell, yet insisted on urging you to go out and watch the theater troupe. How should one put it? Such is fate. Shan Luan turned her head in confusion, just in time to see Qin Gu skillfully shoot an arrow into the pot, while Qin Yu beside him, looking rather pitiful, was attempting to cheer him on. After Qin Gu finished throwing, he noticed Shan Luan was gazing at him, and a faint smile appeared on his lips as he waited for her to divert her eyes. However, Shan Luan continued to watch him, her eyes reflecting a complex array of emotions. Deep down, Shan Luan felt an inexplicable sensation. It could not merely be a coincidence. There are not many coincidences in this world. And the swiftness with which news of Shin Yu and her departure from the residence spread was surely due in part to Qin Ji's influence. Had he already paved the way for himself without awaiting her explanation? Did he never harbor doubts about her? Qin Gu had won back everything Qin Shu had lost, and Qin Yu seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, showering him with compliments. Then he reverted to his usual antics. Teasing Qin Shu, "Shu Shu, Did you not order a splendid banquet? I've been waiting here, and time is flying. The Shin family girl must be hungry by now, right? Qin Shu shot him a glare, linking her arm with Shin Luan and turning to leave. I had everything prepared, Luan. You must eat more. I specially arranged this for you. The younger members of the Guangyang Marquis household, aside from the ailing Qin Lai, were dining at Qin Shu's place. The banquet was a feast for the eyes, with dishes that were not greasy, perfectly suitable for the recently recuperated Shin Luan. The Guangyang Marquis family was not bound by too many rules, and everyone sat together at one table. Qin Yu chuckled and clapped his hands. A servant stepped forward, placing a jar of wine on the table. Since Shu Shu has generously treated us to a meal, how could I, as her elder brother, not show my appreciation? This jar of wine. I must tell you, I had someone bring it back from the borderlands. Originally, there was a whole cart, but due to some mishap on the way, only this small jar remains. I couldn't even bear to drink it myself. Qin Gu cast him a glance, and Qin Yu immediately straightened up. Brother, trust me, since that last time, I haven't touched a drop of alcohol outside. Truly, that had better be the case. Qin Yu sighed in relief, dramatically breaking the seal of the jar, releasing a rich aroma of wine that made him inhale deeply. Indeed, fine wine, worthy of my expectations. Qin Yu had someone fetch a wine ladle, pouring several cups and placing one before each person. Shin Luan lowered her gaze, observing the clear liquid in her cup, the rich fragrance wafting even from a distance. What to do? She found herself wanting to taste it, but considering her alcohol tolerance. Xian's pleading glances almost made her eyes ache. Shin Luan struggled internally, ultimately allowing reason to prevail. This was not the Shun residence. She could not afford to embarrass herself in public. Qin Shtong, I cannot drink wine, but I must thank you for your kind intentions. Qin Yu had already downed a cup, hastily explaining, do not worry. Although it is from the borderlands, it is not that strong and quite sweet, in fact. After saying this, he smacked his lips, nodding as if to assure her, trust me, I have sampled countless wines. Qin Shu shot him a disapproving look. What is there to be proud of? Qin Shu gingerly picked up her cup. Taking a cautious sip, her eyes lighting up in surprise. It truly is sweet? Such a unique wine. Slowly, she drained her cup and requested the maid to refill it, then turned to Shin Luan, saying, it seems not so strong after all. But if you do not wish to drink, then do not. It's all for enjoyment. Shin Luan. No, she wanted to drink. She simply lacked the courage. Shin Luan, suppressing her desires, moved her cup aside and began to eat. The banquet was of excellent quality, and with the Guangyang Marquis family being so informal, the group chatted and laughed, creating a harmonious atmosphere. From the beginning, Qin Gu had noticed that Shin Luan would occasionally glance at the cup of wine, her eyes sparkling with curiosity, yet she forced herself to hold back, her expressions more animated than usual, especially the way her lips would occasionally pout, appearing both aggrieved and adorable. Shin Luan calculated in her heart that Shu Shu had already consumed 4 or 5 cups. And it seemed, she was entirely unaffected. Shin Shu's tolerance for alcohol was not particularly remarkable, as Shin Luan recalled. Thus, could she perhaps try just a little? After much internal conflict, Shin Luan finally succumbed to temptation, stealthily grasping the cup, her lips gently brushing against the liquid, then extending her tongue to taste. It was indeed sweet. With a hint of fruity aroma, the wine's flavor was not overpowering. Shin Luan grew bolder. Taking another small sip before placing the half-full cup back down, her head lowered as a satisfied smile crept onto her face. She thought no one noticed, unaware that Qin Gu was struggling to contain himself. How could there be such a person? Regardless of what she was doing, she made his heart flutter with anticipation. Whether it was her small hand stealthily grasping the wine cup, her lips glistening faintly with moisture, or her contented smile. Qin Gu did not wish to miss a single moment. But this wine. He turned his head, observing Qin Yu and Qin Shu reveling in their merriment, and gently shook his head, summoning Xiao Wu over to whisper a few instructions in his ear. By the time Shin Luan began to feel lightheaded, she lifted her gaze to see Qin Shu and Qin Yu standing up. Their faces flushed. Qin Shu, hands on her hips, was arguing with him. You broke my potted plant first, and now there are just 2 branches left. You tore my fan into shreds, and you dare to blame me? Qin Yu protested. You still call yourself my brother, you stingy wretch. Water. The only water you have is cold. Why? Qin Shu squinted. her tongue stumbling over her words. Stingy wretch, drink cold water. With that, she burst into a fit of high-pitched laughter. Swaying unsteadily, relying on the maid beside her for support, Shen Luan, sluggishly tilting her head, shook it again, growing increasingly dizzy, yet she found it amusing, laughing foolishly to herself. Meanwhile, Qin Yu attempted to grab a wine cup but was promptly intercepted by Qin Gu. Qin Yu, feeling wronged, lamented, at home, "I can't drink at all." Qin Gu ignored him entirely, instructing someone to assist him back, ensuring he would receive a hangover remedy later. Qin Yu's eyes widened in disbelief. "Who said I was drunk? Just this small jar of wine. How could I possibly be intoxicated? Who's supporting me? Let one of you try." The Qin servants swarmed him, swiftly escorting him away. "Second young master, we will take the third young master back first." With no protest from Qin Yu, he was dragged away, his voice ringing out, "No, don't say such nonsense. I can drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk. This is just the beginning. I can still handle 10 jars. No, 100 jars. Steady now, don't shake." Shen Luan found herself increasingly dizzy from Qin Yu's loud protests when suddenly someone tugged on her arm. She looked up to see Qin Shu's silly grin. "Oh Luan, the weather is so fine. Let us go paddle in the water." Shen Luan, No, I cannot paddle. I would drown, but you can." Shen Luan rubbed her temples, striving to maintain her composure. "You are mistaken. I cannot, but you can." Qin Shu blinked dazedly for a moment before breaking into laughter. Right, I can. Let's go to the lotus pond and paddle." Shen Luan, "Oh, no, we can't. The lotus pond is for nurturing flowers. And there are soft-shelled turtles that might bite." Qin Shu conspiratorially leaned close to Shen Luan's ear, exclaiming, "Then how about I have my second brother bring a lake here?" Shen Luan, bewildered, raised her gaze, her eyes landing on Qin Gu. Her expression was confused, and after a moment of dazed contemplation, she surprisingly nodded in agreement. "That sounds good." Qin Shu instantly grew excited, rising unsteadily to seek out Qin Gu. But midway, she faltered, and the maid beside her swiftly caught her. "Second young master, is the young lady drunk?" Qin Gu calmly nodded. "Quite intoxicated. Take her back and care for her properly. At this rate, she may not wake for the rest of the day." He had not anticipated that his preparations would prove accurate. The hangover remedy from Xiao Wu should be nearly ready. Qin Shu, much like Qin Yu, was restless even while being supported, flailing her arms and directing others to catch the spinning tree. Oblivious to her own ability to walk, her feet flailed on the ground, her voice fluctuating, startling the birds perched in the trees into flight. Once Qin Shu was returned to her courtyard, only Shen Luan remained at the table. Still giggling foolishly, Xian anxiously circled around her. "Do not spin around. You are making my head dizzy." All right, I won't spin. Is there anywhere else you feel unwell? Do you need some water?" Shen Luan released her grip, her gaze sweeping over the table before landing on her half-finished cup of wine. She raised a finger, declaring, "I want to drink that." Xian's face paled. "Miss, we cannot drink anymore. You are already on the verge of intoxication." Shen Luan pouted. "I am not drunk. No, I will drink to prove it to you." As she reached for the wine cup, Xian firmly blocked her. "Miss, you truly cannot drink anymore. This is not our Shan residence. If you were to get drunk, do you wish to drink? I will pour it for you." Upon hearing the words, Xian turned her head, ready to glare, but upon seeing it was Qin Gu, she could not rein in her gaze. However, Shen Luan's eyes brightened as she tilted her head to look at Qin Gu, requesting a full pour. "Good, fill it to the brim." Qin Gu held a cup in his hand and carefully filled it from an exquisite wine jug, then gently offered it to Shen Luan. Just as Xian intended to intervene, she was pulled aside by Xiao Wu, who whispered, "It's just water inside." Shen Luan, suddenly struck by a flash of intuition, looked at Qin Gu with suspicion. "You wouldn't be deceiving me, would you? That wine was taken from a jar." Qin Gu couldn't help but chuckle lightly, still sober enough to doubt others. "Are we? If you don't believe me, just taste it." Thus, Shen Luan took the cup, sipped it delicately, and immediately squinted her eyes in delight. "It's sweet." The mixture contained fruit honey. How could it not be sweet? Yet, clearly, Shen Luan could no longer discern the truth. Feeling assured that Qin Gu indeed did not lie to her, she cradled the cup and savored it contentedly, licking her lips with satisfaction. Shu Shu has had a bit too much. Shall we move to another place to rest? After having her wish fulfilled, Shun Luan became particularly agreeable, standing up without needing support, swaying slightly. Xian, alarmed, rushed over to steady her, and Qin Gu led them to the elegant courtyard prepared for guests. Although Shun Luan had not consumed much, merely a small half-cup, her poor tolerance for alcohol rendered her dizzy and her legs weak. They brought a hangover remedy, and Xian coaxed her into drinking it. Shun Luan, soft and cozy, nestled on the imperial concubine couch, clutching a soft pillow adorned with intricate floral patterns, her eyes glazed over. Lost in thought, Xian stepped forward to thank Qin Gu, remarking that there were servants to attend to them, and she did not wish to delay the heir's time. No matter, I have little to do today. It would be remiss for me not to entertain a Luan during her visit to my home. Qin Gu sat beside Shen Luan, who was not sleepy but rather dazed, her mind foggy. She stared at Qin Gu for a moment before suddenly sitting up straight. Did you injure your hand that day? Despite her seemingly nonsensical question, Qin Gu understood, smiling as he revealed one hand, where a barely healed scar resided in the center of his palm. Shun Luan gazed intently, slowly inching closer, then unexpectedly poked his hand with a finger before quickly retracting it. Qin Ji's hand remained still. His eyes lowered, a teasing smile playing on his lips, as though he were bait, and he, a patient hunter. After a while, Shun Luan seemed to muster more courage, extending her hand to gently grasp Qin Ji's. Previously, she had reacted strongly each time she saw his hands, but now she resembled a child with a newfound toy, turning his hand over to examine it, occasionally feeling the back, then poking the palm. Thoroughly engrossed in her play, Xian felt a pang of internal turmoil. Why did the young lady's drunken reactions vary so each time? Thank you, Shun Luan said without lifting her gaze, her breath brushing against Qin Ji's hand, causing his fingers to involuntarily twitch. It's a trivial matter. There's no need for thanks, he replied. Shun Luan shook her head, swaying for a while before murmuring, it's not for this. What she truly wished to express gratitude for was Qin Ji's assistance in avenging her during her most powerless moments. Otherwise, she might have remained oblivious throughout her life, even descending into hell without ever knowing what she had endured. A warm tear fell onto Qin Ji's hand, startling him. Luan? In the midst of Xian's astonishment, Shun Luan calmly used Qin Ji's sleeve to wipe her tears, feeling no sense of impropriety. Her gaze returned to Qin Ji's face, tilting her head slightly. Why are you still in Yin City? Shouldn't you be heading to Beiping? Shun Luan's memory seemed disordered. How could Qin Gu still be in Yin City? The light in Qin Ji's eyes flickered. Do you know I was about to leave? Yes, Shun Luan nodded vigorously. When you return victorious, you will be extraordinary. Do you believe I will definitely win? Of course, Shun Luan replied with unwavering certainty, convinced that Qin Gu would ascend the ranks, smoothly taking command of the Grand Commander's office, becoming the most radiant figure in Yin City. Qin Gu, with a crescent smile, asked, why do you think so? Because you are Qin Gu, Shun Luan replied, finding his question perplexing. After speaking, she furrowed her brow, releasing his hand to grasp the soft pillow and shift aside, as if proximity to Qin Gu would dull her intellect. With his hand now empty, Qin Gu felt a pang of regret. Had he known, he wouldn't have asked. The couple, Lord and Lady Guangyang, learned that their son and daughter were thoroughly intoxicated. Their expressions quite the spectacle. Qin Shu and Qin Yu were no easy characters, causing chaos in their respective courtyards, leading to a ruckus that left the Guangyang couple infuriated, yet restrained due to Jin Shi's presence. Unbeknownst to them, Jin Shi was equally anxious, inquiring about Shun Luan's whereabouts, hastily heading over to assess the situation. Mother. Shun Luan stood from her seat, her demeanor graceful, her features clear, instantly easing Jin Shi's heart. Having lingered at the Marquis's residence for too long, we ought to return. Jin Shi led Shun Luan to bid farewell to the Guangyang couple, with Su Shi expressing deep apologies for their unruly children. Acknowledging Shun Luan's steadiness. She almost drove me mad, Jin Shi lamented, recalling her attempts to restrain Qin Yu from his tantrums. Seeing Shun Luan's compliant demeanor, she felt envious. Jin Shi humbly conversed with her for a while, and as Shun Luan's gaze shifted, she caught sight of Qin Gu. She had not truly intoxicated herself, thus she was fully aware of her actions and words. The realization of her clarity only served to amplify her distress. That wine must have been poisoned, right? Had she been possessed by a ghost? Shen Luan lowered her head, her mind swirling with Qin Ji's earlier words. He had mentioned that his reluctance to leave Yin City stemmed from concerns about what Chao Jin might do. Yet he would soon depart. It seemed that this lifetime and the last had diverged onto two distinct paths. What lay at the end, Shen Luan could not fathom, yet she felt an unspoken anticipation. Days later, news spread that Qin Gu would be departing Yin City with Lord Guangyang, causing a flurry of activity at the Guangyang residence. While chatting with Shen Luan, Jin Shi expressed her sentiments about it. Qin Gu possesses great ambition. Despite bearing the title of heir, he is willing to take risks. Among the young talents in Yin City, such resolve is rare, and with this momentum, he is sure to achieve great things. Shen Luan, tinkering with the spices that Jin Shi had shown her, casually remarked, "Brother Qin's future achievements will be remarkable. This is merely the beginning." She pinched a bit of fragrance from the box and waved it gently before her nose. "I believe this box is more refined. What do you think, mother?" When she received no response after a while, she lifted her head to find Jin Shi staring intently at her, which struck her as odd. "Is something wrong?" Jin Shi set aside the spices in Shen Luan's hand, waved for the maidservants to leave, and then gazed at her with fervent eyes. "Luan, I am an open-minded person. It is perfectly normal for a young girl to have someone she admires. When I was your age, I too had someone I fancied." Shen Luan's eyes widened in curiosity. "Really? Who is so fortunate?" Jin Shi replied, "That is not important. What I wish to convey is that if you have someone you like, feel free to share it with me, and I shall assist you in considering it. No one." Shen Luan quickly denied, reaching again for the spices. "Did you not ask me to select two for procurement? I have chosen these two. Truly no one. You are no longer bound by a betrothal, and the Shen family is not of low standing. I hope you will marry someone you truly like in the future. Life will be much more enjoyable that way." "Really, there is no one," Shen Luan said, lowering her head, absent-mindedly fiddling with the spices in the box. Jin Shi chose not to press the matter, silently smiling to herself. "Very well then. Your grandmother has been quite vexed over the matter of Shenyu and the Shao family, and she is in no hurry regarding your engagement with Shenling, especially for you. The old lady plans to keep you for a few more years, intending to find you a suitable match." Shen Luan lightly acknowledged this, not particularly concerned. Her mind was preoccupied with thoughts of vengeance, and she had not given much thought to her own future. Noticing Shen Luan's distraction, Jin Shi shifted the conversation. "You have known Qin Gu since childhood, and Lord Guangyang treats you well. As they embark on their journey, you must see them off. This farewell may last a few years. Have you thought about what parting gift you would like to give him?" Shen Luan paused, unsure of what to choose, for the next half-day. She pondered this question. After returning to her courtyard, she sought Xian's opinion. "What do you think would be suitable for me to give him?" "Miss, how would I know? If you're truly uncertain, you might consider asking the second young master." "Better not." Shen Luan dismissed the idea without a second thought, having presumed her brother would become more amiable after his exams, only to find him even more demanding, increasingly critical of her faults. Shen Luan couldn't help but wonder if Shan Wanshao intended to cultivate her into a master of calligraphy. It seemed unnecessary. Moreover, she had previously inquired, and her brother had only provided her with a few essentials. Having the right mindset was sufficient. After contemplating for a while, Shen Luan ultimately resolved what to present as a gift. With the departure of the Guangyang Marquis and Qin Gu drawing nearer, she thought it would be best to offer her gift while accompanying Qin Shu and others to bid farewell, blending in with the crowd to avoid drawing attention. However, she never anticipated being intercepted on her way before the day arrived. "Brother Qin, what a coincidence. Are you dining at this establishment as well?" Shen Luan greeted him with a particularly polite smile. "I just finished my meal. Please take your time, and I shall not disturb you." "I'm not hungry. Have you finished?" "Perfect. I shall accompany you for a stroll to aid digestion." As they walked side by side down the street, Qin Gu turned to her and said, "In a couple of days, I shall be leaving Yin City with my father. I have met numerous friends who came to bid me farewell, yet I have not seen you. I thought perhaps addressing me as Brother Qin would bring us closer in the eyes of others." Shen Luan quickly explained, "I have made arrangements with Shu Shu to send you and Uncle Qin off in 2 days. "Oh, so you are joining us for the farewell?" Qin Gu remarked nonchalantly, his tone laced with an indistinct emotion. Shen Luan fidgeted with her handkerchief, unsure of how to respond. Fortunately, Qin Gu swiftly redirected the conversation. "This journey with my father is due to the turmoil in Beiping. I have been summoned, and I may be away for at least 1 or 2 years. possibly 3 to 5. By the time I return to Yin City, I fear the world may have changed, leaving only nostalgia in its wake. Go this, Shen Luan confidently replied, that will not be the case. Brother Qin will surely return soon, within 2 years at most, and he will undoubtedly triumph. By then, Qin Gu would have gained great renown, with people flocking to him, adorned with accolades, far more formidable than the title of the Guangyang Marquis' heir. You have such faith in me? Shen Luan was momentarily taken aback by the gentle smile on Qin Ji's face. It is not merely a matter of belief, it is the truth. Brother Qin has diligently studied military texts and trained rigorously. All efforts must yield rewards. Do you not have confidence in yourself? Not at all, however. If you have faith in me, I would be even more pleased. Shen Luan turned her head, her cheeks warm, avoiding his gaze. How could Qin Gu so effortlessly utter such words in a past life? He had been reserved and noble, maintaining an air of superiority. Even his smile seemed veiled. Indeed, humans are complex beings. Speaking of which, I am about to depart. Do you have any sentiments to express? Qin Gu boldly broached the subject, feeling that if he did not initiate it, Shen Luan, with her disposition, would likely offer nothing at all. To his surprise, she pondered for a moment before producing a fragrant sachet and handing it to him. Originally, I intended to give this to you in 2 days. Shen Luan thought it best to present it now, alleviating her own sense of anticipation. This sachet contains a blend of spices I commissioned, effective in repelling mosquitoes and insects. The formula was reviewed by a physician, who assured me of its efficacy. I hope it proves useful. Holding the sachet aloft, she focused her gaze on it, waiting for Qin Gu to accept it. Qin Gu was taken aback by the unexpected gift, holding it with care. A delicate fragrance wafted from within. The sachet itself, exquisitely crafted in a plain azure hue, adorned with minimal embroidery, featuring a small bat motif symbolizing good fortune. Upon closer inspection, Qin Gu noticed a tiny character Gu intricately stitched into a discreet corner of the sachet. Did you make this? Shen Luan's hands momentarily stiffened. The sachet was inconsequential. The spices held the true value. Oh, I also included the formula inside. If the fragrance diminishes, it can be replenished. Avoiding the question, Qin Gu gently caressed the sachet, pleasantly surprised by the thoughtful gift. I am curious, do you carry this sachet with you? Shen Luan flared up, attempting to reclaim it. Never mind. I believe this is inappropriate. I shall prepare another for you. Qin Gu raised the sachet high, asserting, that will not do. I find it quite suitable. One does not take back a gift. Shen Luan jumped several times but could not reach it, her cheeks puffing in frustration. Why had she so impulsively revealed the sachet? Qin Gu, wary of provoking her further, tucked the sachet safely away and chuckled. Actually, I too have something I wish to present to you before my departure. You are too kind, Brother Qin. I cannot accept anything without having contributed. Shen Luan maintained a stern expression, stomping ahead in a huff. Qin Gu, amused, followed her closely. Once I leave, we may not meet for quite some time. I fear you might forget your elder brother. He halted Shen Luan, producing a talisman-like object. Knowing we are to leave, my mother and Shu Shu made a special trip to the temple to pray for blessings. I accompanied them and asked for a talisman of peace for you. Do you like it? Shen Luan stared at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. You prayed for this? Is there a problem? The issue is monumental. In a past life, everyone knew that Qin Gu held no belief in deities. He had faced numerous battles, embodying a warrior spirit, placing far greater value on personal strength. Such a person would seek a talisman for peace. She hesitated, unable to reach out for it. Do you not like it? Not exactly. I merely find it surprising that this is something Brother Qin would do. Qin Gu chuckled good-naturedly. What would be more like me? Why don't you share your thoughts? Having been reborn, Shen Luan considered herself transformed. Regardless of whether facing Shen Yu, Chao Jian, or even the third prince, she could maintain her composure. After all, she had died once. How could she still be flustered like a child? Having even met the emperor and emerged unscathed was quite remarkable. Yet, upon encountering Qin Gu, she felt as if she reverted to a state of confusion, unsure of how to comport herself. Eventually, Shen Luan accepted the talisman, reasoning that if she did not, who knew what astonishing words Qin Gu might utter next? Seeing her take it, Qin Gu wasted no time and bid her farewell, watching as she boarded her carriage. Xiao Wu, noticing Qin Ji's gaze lingering, couldn't help but express concern. Young master, you may not return for quite some time. Why not urge the Marquis and his wife to settle matters between you and Miss Shun? Qin Gu lowered his gaze, pondering why he hadn't mentioned it. However, his mother had hinted that the matriarch of the Shin family did not intend to marry Shen Luan off soon. Especially considering the incident involving Shen Yu, as long as I return early, it will be fine. Suddenly, a smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. If she has such confidence in me, I cannot disappoint her. Xiao Wu mumbled, I don't believe Miss Shun feels the same way, oh? What do you think she means? Startled, Xiao Wu replied. It must be that she has absolute faith in young master, with no concerns whatsoever. Meanwhile, at the street corner, Chao Jin, burdened with recently purchased items, was nearly aghast. When had Shen Luan and Qin Ji's relationship become so intimate? Had it not been for Qin Gu, perhaps his situation with Shun Yu would have taken a different turn. Someone who was supposed to have left Yin City remained, fortuitously encountering Shen Luan outside the tavern. Chao Jin tightened his grip, realizing that whether in this life or the last, he and Qin Gu were destined rivals. Inherently incompatible. Watching Qin Gu depart, he suppressed his malevolent gaze. Yet, it mattered not. Qin Gu would still leave, and once gone, it could be 2 years before he returned. In that time, anything could happen. If he were to marry Shen Yu, he would become a son-in-law of the Shin family. As long as the Shin family invested in him, his past experiences would certainly yield fruitful results. With power, what could one not obtain? Chao Jin was unhurried. He had time, and the opportunity for a reversal lay ahead. On the day of Qin Ji's departure with the Guangyang Marquis, many from Yin City came to bid farewell. Shen Luan consoled Qin Shu. Her arm draped over her shoulder. Brother Qin will surely return safely. Do not cry. Qin Shu sobbed uncontrollably. What if the journey to Beiping is long and fraught with danger? What if father and second brother encounter misfortune? What shall we do? That will not happen. Uncle Qin is incredibly capable, and Brother Qin is equally formidable. They will certainly be fine. After Qin Gu bid farewell to his friends, he approached his sister to comfort her. Upon seeing her tear-streaked eyes, his expression softened. So, you do care to show me kindness after all. Now you realize you will miss me. Qin Shu glared at him, tears brimming in her eyes. I have never treated you poorly. Oh? Then please enlighten me. Qin Shu pondered for a moment, desperately glancing at Shen Luan for help. Shen Luan was puzzled but could not ignore her friend. You are particularly worry-free? Qin Gu let out a low chuckle. And Qin Shu, unwilling to back down, jumped up, dissipating some of the melancholy of their farewell. When it was Shen Luan's turn, she politely urged him to take care, her demeanor neither too warm nor too cold. Indistinguishable from that of others. Qin Gu smiled and nodded, assuring her, I shall return early. By then, do not forget about me, your elder brother. Shen Luan held her breath, perplexed by the way he spoke, almost as if gasping for air. Qin Gu, depart, came the voice of the Marquis of Guangyang. Qin Gu cast a lingering gaze at Shen Luan, raised his hand and remarked, the gift you bestowed upon me, I shall cherish it dearly. With that, he turned, the hem of his garment sweeping through the air, as he mounted his horse. The sunlight bathed Qin Gu, bestowing upon him a gilded aura. He circled in place, tugging at the reins, waving goodbye to the gathering crowd, and rode off alongside the Marquis of Guangyang. Qin Shu's eyes glistened with unshed tears, while Shen Luan remained entranced by Qin Ji's receding figure. In her previous life, she had also seen him off when he departed from Yin City. But at that time, her focus had been solely on Qin Shu, lacking the intense emotions she felt now. Yet, she vaguely recalled that in her past life, Qin Gu had taken the time to converse with her. Though the content of their exchange eluded her memory completely. Luan, what did you gift my brother? Qin Shu's eyes were still moist, yet her tone turned inquisitive. Shen Luan lowered her head. Oh, just some ordinary trinkets. Oh, what were they? Qin Shu continued. I spent quite a fortune on some medicinal salves for my brother, yet he never mentioned cherishing them. Shen Luan turned her head. Brother Qin is merely being courteous. As his own sister, I have never experienced such courtesy from him. You truly do not understand my brother. Would he ever be courteous to anyone? Qin Shu chuckled, dismissing the notion, if he were capable of such politeness. Their father would not have had to erupt in anger twice in the past few days over the family matters that had gone awry. Who in this world would extend courtesy? Certainly not her brother. Shen Luan wished to abandon the topic, but Qin Shu was relentless. Just as she was about to probe further, she suddenly shot Shen Luan a knowing glance. Shen Luan turned, startled to see Xiao Ran there. "Miss Shen, may I speak with you for a moment?" Xiao Ran's arrival drew the attention of several onlookers. He had become a prominent figure in Yin City, particularly due to his connection with the third prince, making his relationship with Shen Luan widely recognized. Qin Shu nudged Shen Luan's shoulder and lowered her voice. "Did you not say you had withdrawn from the marriage with the Xiao family?" "Indeed, I have." Hence, Shen Luan was bewildered by Xiao Ran's approach. "It will only take a moment. I shan't keep you long." Xiao Ran's demeanor was resolute. Shen Luan nodded. "Please, Mr. Xiao." As they stepped aside, a faint smile graced Shen Luan's face. "What is it that you wish to discuss, Mr. Xiao?" "I recently learned in the palace that the engagement between our families has been called off. I was not privy to this development beforehand." Shen Luan did not grasp his implication. Surely, Mr. Xiao must prioritize the future. There was no need to dwell on this matter, unless the Shen family had somehow faltered in their responsibilities. That cannot be. "My grandmother is always meticulous, ensuring nothing is left amiss. I ask there's something Mr. Xiao finds unsatisfactory?" Her puzzled expression caused Xiao Ran to furrow his brow slightly. "What I wish to convey is that the annulment of the engagement was not my decision." Shen Luan raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Xiao, you are overthinking this. Regardless of whose decision it was, the Shen and Xiao families have severed ties. There is no need for you to console me. The Shen family harbors no resentment towards the Xiao family. In her previous life, Xiao Ran had not approached her after the annulment, yet at that time, she had just suffered a disfigurement, making it unlikely he would seek her out." Shen Luan regarded him with a cheerful demeanor, her eyes devoid of any indignation. "I fully comprehend the position of the Xiao family. Mr. Xiao is a man of principle and integrity, and the Shen family is deeply appreciative of such sentiments. However, the Shen family never intended to take advantage of the Xiao family, thus the dissolution of the engagement is entirely reasonable, and all parties understand this. I did not believe the Shen family would seek to profit from the situation." Chapter 115. The announcement. Shen Luan was amused by his serious tone and lightly countered. "Really? Did Mr. Xiao truly have no reservations upon learning of our engagement?" Observing Xiao Ran's hesitance, Shen Luan's smile widened. "I jest. It is natural for anyone to feel a twinge of discomfort in such a situation. Mr. Xiao need not take it to heart." She found Xiao Ran to be more amiable than she had previously thought. With the awkwardness dissipating between them, Shen Luan felt increasingly at ease. Therefore, Mr. Xiao need not feel embarrassed. Engagements significantly impact one's future, and thus must be approached with caution. "I sincerely wish you the best in finding a woman who brings you joy, one with whom you can share a harmonious and prosperous life." Xiao Ran was at a loss for words. Upon exiting the palace, he had received a letter from his family, in which his father had expressed his rage, revealing that his mother had unilaterally called off the engagement with the Shen family without informing him. In that moment, Xiao Ran could not articulate the tumult of emotions within him. The burdens he had carried since childhood seemed to vanish in an instant, and he should have felt liberated. After all, this engagement had caused him considerable frustration. Yet, he found himself unable to feel happiness. He even contemplated writing to his mother, questioning her motives for sending that letter to Shen Luan and for dissolving the engagement without his knowledge. He also felt the need to clarify to Shen Luan that this was not his decision. He had grown less resistant to the idea of the engagement. However, despite visiting the Shen household on several occasions, he had not encountered anyone, and he wondered if Shen Luan was upset and unwilling to see him. Yet today, upon seeing her, she seemed unperturbed, which only added to his discomfort. "Miss Shen, it appears you were never favorable towards this engagement from the outset?" Shen Luan retorted. "Did you hold a favorable view?" Indeed, Xiao Ran had never been optimistic about it. His demeanor during his visits had been indifferent, as if he were merely fulfilling an obligation, which explained her lack of enthusiasm. "I understand now." Shen Luan was taken aback. "Understand what?" Xiao Ran's eyes brightened with clarity. "This matter was one I failed to manage appropriately, and it is no wonder you, or the Shen family, would feel this way. I know what I must do." "What do you mean, Mr. Xiao? Surely you do not harbor any misunderstandings about the Shen family?" Shen Luan felt a surge of urgency. What was he planning? Xiao Ran offered a gentle smile. "It is you who have misunderstood, Miss Shen. Perhaps in the future, there may be instances where I require your assistance. I apologize for the intrusion today." Xiao Ran appeared to have unburdened himself, his expression more relaxed as he bowed to Shen Luan and gracefully departed. Qin Shu approached. Luan, what did he want from you? Who knows, did you not speak with him for a while? Yes, but what exactly did he say? Qin Shu frowned, puzzled. Recently, the most pressing matter for the Shen family was Shen Yu's engagement. Once the engagement was established, the Chao family quickly sent over their betrothal gifts. As she was a secondary daughter, and given the rushed nature of the arrangement, the gifts were somewhat meager. The matchmaker waved her handkerchief. While Shen feigned discontent, insisting, the Chao family has shown considerable sincerity. After all, this matter is not without its complications. If we were to host a grand affair, it might invite ridicule, so it is better to keep things simple. Lu Shi cast a disdainful glance over the paltry gifts, scoffing internally, yet maintaining a facade of polite acquiescence. Your reasoning is sound. With a modest dowry, she felt no need to prepare a lavish bridal gift, which suited her perfectly. The process of the engagement unfolded surprisingly smoothly, with the Shen family not raising any objections to the gifts, and the Chao matriarch's grievances lessening somewhat. After all, she is just a secondary daughter. Should she not be grateful? Our family has already shown her considerable favor. Chao Jin remained silent, recalling how, in his past life, he had sought to marry Shen Luan, which had entailed significant complications. After all, Shen Luan was a legitimate daughter, and her mother came from a family of merchants who would never allow Shen Luan to be slighted. Eventually, it was Shen Yu who persuaded Shen Luan, making her believe that Shan Sanforan was intentionally making things difficult for the Chao family. The rift between Shan Luan and Shan Sanforan nearly caused a complete breakdown in relations, compelling the Shen family to relent. Nevertheless, even then, Shan Sanforan had prepared a generous dowry for Shen Luan, paving the way for Chao Jin's own political ascent. The more Chao Jin pondered, the more discontented he grew. Marrying Shen Luan had been the wisest decision he had made in his past life. And now he had let it slip through his fingers. Jin, do you not find that the Shen family seems rather indifferent to this engagement? They have not even sent anyone to visit. Considering they are a family of reputable standing, if our daughter were in such a situation, we would be the ones to propose the marriage, and we would not be so magnanimous as to agree to take her as a primary wife. In my opinion, a concubine would suffice. Since arriving in Yen City, Chao Tai had gained considerable insight, believing that the city was filled with elite families, and her son, being quite capable in his own right, should easily capture the affection of a daughter from a prominent family. Jin, have you not reconsidered? Chao Jin waved his hand dismissively. The date is already set. What is there to reconsider? Mother, please ensure the household is tidied up promptly to avoid causing any embarrassment. He hardly paid attention to the matter, solely focused on how he would leverage the Shen family's influence once Shen Yu married into their family. The date set for the marriage of Shen Yu was even earlier than that of her elder sister, Shen Qing. The grand residence is not in a hurry, wishing to await the examination results. Should Shen Jian achieve success, Shen Qing's standing in her husband's family will naturally be elevated, and the wedding ceremony will undoubtedly be more splendid. Yu Shi harbors immense confidence in Shen Jian. The courtyard is filled with the fragrant offerings of incense day and night. Aside from managing household affairs, she engages in prayer, beseeching the heavens for Shen Jian's triumphant victory. On the other hand, Lu Shi is eager to marry off Shen Yu without delay, wishing to postpone not even a single day. Since that incident, Shen Yu's temperament has turned dark and foreboding. Several times, Lu Shi has been taken aback by the intense hatred reflected in her eyes, fearful that the trauma she has endured might inadvertently harm the family. Thus, when discussing the wedding date with the Chao family, both parties were inclined to hasten the arrangements, ultimately selecting the nearest auspicious day. You girl, the embroidery shop has already delivered the wedding attire. Given the circumstances, what further tantrum are you throwing? Lu Shi stood outside Shen Yu's chamber, instructing the maidservants to bring in the items one by one. Chao Jin at least holds a respectable position, and you, as a concubine, are not being dishonored. Moreover, despite the upheaval, Chao Jin still wishes to marry you, which speaks volumes of his intentions. This is what truly matters. Chao Jin could easily have distanced himself from the situation. Being a man, once the storm subsides, it would not be difficult for him to seek a suitable bride from a reputable family. Yet, he insists on marrying Shen Yu, a fact that even the Shen family finds surprising. The items have been delivered, the date is approaching. Prepare yourself well. I never imagined you would be the first among our daughters to wed. Lu Shi chuckled lightly, waving her handkerchief as she departed with the maidservants. Inside, Shen Yu, unable to bear the wind due to her facial injury, kept the windows tightly shut, suffocating the room with the pungent scent of medicine. Her expression was grim as she stared at the vibrant red garments, in well-mannered families. A bride is expected to embroider her wedding attire, with every stitch infused with dreams of the future, carrying profound significance. Shunyu had envisioned what her own wedding would be like numerous times. She aspired to be the most fortunate daughter of the Shin family, to have a man of exceptional status arrive grandly to propose. Eliciting envy from all, she dreamed of receiving the most coveted bridal gifts and of showcasing her exquisite embroidery skills to create the most beautiful wedding attire, ultimately standing out on her wedding day. Yet, none of that is present now. Shunyu extended her fingers and picked up the wedding robe, a rather ordinary red garment, clearly inexpensive, perhaps even less valuable than a common dress worn by Shenluan. However, Shunyu dared not cast it aside. Compared to marrying Chao Jin, she feared even more the prospect of remaining a spinster for life. Suppressing the resentment within her, Shunyu knew she must strategize for herself. She surmised that Chao Jin proposed marriage out of fear that she might disclose the events. Indeed, had he not been sincere, Shunyu would have likely dragged him into her predicament, and the Shen family could easily handle a mere scholar. However, her involvement would inevitably expose her, leading to her abandonment by the Shen family. Thus, Shunyu had no choice but to endure and testify for Chao Jin, who could only marry her in return. Yet, what Shunyu desired was far more than this. Shunyu changed into the vibrant red wedding attire, gazing at her reflection in the mirror, the scar on her face a constant reminder of her failures. It was Shenluan who caused this. She murmured to her ghostly reflection. It was she who forced me to vow. I bear all this for her point one day. I will make her repay everything in full. Before Shenyu's wedding, the results of the examinations were announced. Almost everyone in the Shen family was enveloped in a tense atmosphere, with a few notable exceptions. Wen Xiao, are you truly not going? The examination hall must be teeming with people by now. Hurry and change your clothes. Jane Shi, anxious, wished she could assist him in dressing herself. How could this child be so out of sync with others? Wen Xiao held a scroll in his hand and merely raised his head in response. Whether I go or not will not alter the outcome. If I succeed, the golden flower notice will come to my door. If I fail, attending will only add to my despair. Why expend the effort? Shenluan silently applauded from the side and tugged at Jin Shi's sleeve. Mother, my brother has this temperament. I will accompany you. Jin Shi was instantly reassured. You are indeed a good daughter. Wen Xiao glanced at Shenluan. Have you practiced your calligraphy for today? Shenluan nearly burst into tears, retreating slightly behind Jin Shi. Not yet, but brothers' matters are more important than writing. On such a crucial day, what was the point of discussing calligraphy? Wen Xiao replied softly, as though in agreement. Shenluan and Jin Shi quietly exited, both exhaling a sigh of relief. You remember to practice your writing when you return. Otherwise, I cannot save you. Jin Shi, lacking confidence, patted Shenluan's shoulder. Let us hurry. We should take a look with Wen Xiao's demeanor. I feel that such a grand display may not be necessary. We should let things unfold naturally. Shenluan giggled. Brother is certainly poised and composed. She recalled that Wen Xiao had indeed passed. Apparently as the top scholar, always in the limelight, so she had prepared congratulatory gifts early on. Yu Shi had no time to wait for the third room, leaving the residence early, and Jin Shi's and Shenluan's anxious emotions began to subside. They had arranged for a carriage and left at a leisurely pace. The carriage could only reach the street corner near the examination hall, and upon disembarking, they witnessed throngs of people rushing past. Their expressions manic, tearing their examination papers into shreds, unable to discern whether they were laughing or crying. Shenluan and Jin Shi were startled. Jin Shi patted her chest, Wen Xiao remained steady. While the success or failure of the imperial examination is important, it should not be a matter of life and death. Brother's calm demeanor sets him apart from others. Such individuals can achieve great things. Mother, just wait. Brother will undoubtedly succeed. Shenluan spoke with unwavering confidence. But upon arrival, they discovered that the area beneath the south courtyard wall was already packed to the brim, making it impossible for them to catch a glimpse of the results. How is this possible? So many people. Jin Shi grew anxious again, and Shenluan urged her to wait outside while she tiptoed to navigate through the crowd. Various families had sent people to gather information, and Shenluan struggled to make her way through, often being pushed back by those stronger than herself. Suddenly, An arm reached out from the side, creating some space around Shen Luan. She looked up in surprise to find Xiao Ran. What brings you here? Young Master Xiao. Xiao Ran's voice was cool. Aren't you here to see the results? Do you wish to see or not? Of course. With Xiao Ran's remarkable strength, he shielded her as she effortlessly made her way to the wall. Lifting her head, her first instinct was to search for Shan Wenxiao's name in the top scholar's position. Yet, she was met with an unfamiliar name. How can this be? Shen Luan's heart raced. And she quickly scanned backward, her anxiety becoming increasingly palpable. Where could it be? Don't panic. There are many names. Perhaps you simply missed it, Xiao Ran comforted. Shen Luan took a deep breath, asserting that Shan Wenxiao could not have failed. She began from the very end, meticulously searching for each name, moving toward the top scholar position, yet still found no sign of Shan Wenxiao. Above the top scholar was the second place. And then, Shen Luan's pupils dilated, fixated on the two characters, Zhuang Yuan. Suddenly, she let out a muffled squeal, gripping Xiao Ran's sleeve and shaking it earnestly. Look, please help me see who the top scholar is. Whose name is it? Xiao Ran's gaze shifted from her hand to the list, softly reading aloud. Shen Wenxiao, your elder brother. Ah! Shen Luan leapt with joy. My brother is the top scholar. She continued to clutch Xiao Ran's sleeve. Her cheeks flushed with excitement. You saw it too, right? I did not misread. Yes, I saw it too. A gentle smile began to blossom in Xiao Ran's eyes, her uncontainable joy nearly spilling over into laughter. I must hurry to tell mother. Shen Luan released her hold and squeezed through the crowd, with Xiao Ran protecting her until they emerged, watching her flit away like a butterfly. Lowering his head, he noticed the faint creases on his sleeve, a sight that stirred an unwillingness to smooth them out. Mother! Mother! Shen Luan, uncharacteristically animated, called out loudly outside, unable to contain herself. Jane Shi's eyes widened. What is it? Did he succeed? Shen Luan beamed. He did, of course. He did. Umitba, may the heavens protect us. That incense money was not wasted. Jane Shi clasped her hands together, murmuring, I must return to the temple tomorrow to express my gratitude. Shen Luan beamed at her mother. Mother, why don't you ask me what brother achieved? Jane Shi, her voice trembled slightly. Could it be? Wenxiao placed in the top 3? The top scholar? Be bolder in your guesses. Could it be the second place? Seeing her mother more excited than herself brought Shen Luan a sense of balance. Guess again. Jane Shi hesitated. That would leave only one possibility. Luan, please tell me the truth. He is the top scholar. My brother is the top scholar. Jane Shi nearly fainted, supported by the maidservants, her eyes fixed incredulously on Shen Luan. Is it true? Is there any doubt? The one bringing good news should be arriving at our home shortly. So why wait? Let us hasten back home and bring some joy to the old matriarch. Shen Luan herself was astonished by the extent of her happiness, in her previous life. Although Shan Wenxiao had merely achieved the rank of the 3rd place, it was still a significant event. Yet, at that time, she had already fallen into a trap, and her family had descended into despair due to her own circumstances, causing Shan Wenxiao's joyous news to barely create a ripple at home. This time, upon returning home, the Jin matriarch immediately instructed her servants to hang all the lanterns that had been prepared in advance, and firecrackers were readied, urging Shen Luan to convey the good news to Shan Wenxiao, while she herself rushed to the Zhang family. Shen Luan hesitated for a moment, thinking that her brother might not react much to such news. What if he inquired about her calligraphy practice? Shen Luan hastily instructed Xian to fetch the congratulatory gift she had prepared, and only then did she slowly make her way to Shan Wenxiao's courtyard. Brother! Great news! Shen Luan exclaimed with a beaming smile as she dashed inside. You've topped the list, 1st place. How did you become so remarkable? Shen Wenxiao subtly loosened his grip on the book he held, and the corners of his mouth seemed to soften slightly. However, his expression remained largely unchanged as he raised his eyes to look at Shen Luan. Why didn't you notice my brilliance before? Shen Luan. Why is he so good at countering? Of course I knew. I just feel that you are exceptionally talented. Among so many, you are the first. Their mother is overjoyed and has already gone to share the news with grandmother. Soon, those bringing celebratory gifts will arrive, and brother, you will gain fame. I do not study for fame, I understand. Brother has aspirations to accomplish great things for the court. Shan Luan's words dripped with sweetness, her eyes shimmering with joy and pride. causing Shen Wenxiao to involuntarily curve his lips upward. He realized he must strive for even greater heights. Only by reaching a place where others dare not belittle him could he shield this sister under his wings, ensuring her safety and preventing any recurrence of the situation faced by the Xiao family, where no one could look down upon her. What is that? Shen Wenxiao noticed the item in Xian's hands, and Shenluan quickly presented it to him. This is a congratulatory gift I specially prepared for you, to celebrate your success on the examination. It was an entire set of the 4 treasures of the study, of exceptionally fine quality, which Shen Luan had specifically instructed the shopkeeper to procure, along with a rare edition obtained from a merchant. Shen Wenxiao inspected each item in turn, all of which were rare finds, and he felt touched by her thoughtfulness. But you prepared this so early. What if I had not succeeded? That was impossible. Shen Luan proudly lifted her chin, her tone exuding a sense of triumph as if she herself had achieved first place. Shen Wenxiao chuckled lightly, realizing that to avoid disappointing this little peacock, he must continue to put forth his best effort. Outside, the sound of firecrackers reverberated, and neighbors began to gather, soon realizing that the Shen family had celebrated a double triumph, producing 2 successful candidates, one of whom was the top scholar. This was indeed remarkable. Truly a family of enduring scholarly tradition, a home of top scholars. Generations of the family had produced scholars. How impressive. The Shen family was poised for a resurgence. Previously, they had maintained their status through Shen Sanyi, but from now on, they would be elevated. Who could have imagined that the descendants of the Shen family would achieve such success? However, the Shen daughters, what nonsense are you spouting? Aren't you afraid of being overheard? The one who caused the trouble was merely a concubine's daughter. The legitimate daughters of the Shen family are all quite respectable. Indeed, now that the Shen family has produced another top scholar, the daughters need not worry about marriage. Just wait and see. The line of suitors will extend to the end of the alley. That's right, especially for the 3rd daughter of Shen. That top scholar is her own brother, with a future that knows no bounds. The grand procession arrived to convey the joyous tidings, parading with drums and gongs to the Shen family. The family had prepared in advance, decorating the house festively to welcome them. However, despite such great joy, Yushi's expression was not particularly pleasant. Shen Jian had also achieved the rank of a successful candidate, but he paled in comparison to the top scholar, as evidenced by the way the congratulators flocked to speak with Jin Shi, treating her like family. Nevertheless, Shen Jian remained unperturbed. When Shen Luan delivered his congratulatory gift, she expected some hint of dissatisfaction, but to her surprise, he maintained a calm and gentle demeanor. Thank you, 3rd sister. This painting you brought was something I had sought after in vain. I never expected to receive it through your hands. I am deeply grateful. Shen Luan chuckled. Big brother, there is no need for such formality with me. I could hardly think of a suitable gift for you. I only hope that you may find success and ascend to greater heights in the future. Shen Jian carefully set the painting aside, smiling lightly at her words. Who can expect everything to go smoothly? It suffices to remain true to one's efforts. If what I have learned today can be of use in the future, then my arduous studies will not have been in vain. Shen Luan felt a deep respect for Shen Jian. Such a mindset was rare indeed. In her previous life, her big brother had not garnered much fame, and Xiao Jian had not paid him much heed. Yet it seemed he had persistently pursued his own endeavors, achieving little but striving for enrichment. By the way, I heard that Wenxiao has been urging you to practice your calligraphy. How has that been going? Shen Luan snapped back to reality, her face turning sour. Well, it's going all right. Let me see you write a couple of characters. Shen Jian kindly prepared paper for her, and Shen Luan couldn't help but smile wryly as she wrote a few characters and put down the brush. You mustn't laugh at my writing. Wenxiao's efforts have not been in vain. Your handwriting now is unmatched by most young ladies in Yin City. Shen Jian admired her work, then turned to retrieve an inkstone he had found in an antique shop, declaring, This is a small return gift for you, something I discovered from a previous dynasty, of excellent quality. May it assist you in reaching even greater heights. Shen Luan felt even more touched. Look at you. Big brother? How considerate. A return gift. She gazed at the beautiful inkstone in her hands, recalling how Shen Wenxiao had accepted her gift, and then there was nothing more. You are truly wonderful, big brother. Shen Wenxiao? Where did this girl get such grand sentiments? Chapter 117. A desperate situation. Shen Wenxiao made quite the impression in Yin City. The following day, All newly appointed scholars were to enter the palace to express their gratitude. Early in the morning, the entire Shin family came to see off Shin Wanxiao and Shun Jian, who were dressed in their official robes. Shin Qing, graceful and gentle, offered her blessings softly, while Shin Ling, bored and disinterested, had little to do with the second branch, begrudgingly waking before dawn. Even her kind words could not hide her insincerity. When it was Shun Luan's turn, she was at a loss for words. So she lavished praise on both brothers. Today, you two must be the most outstanding among the court officials. My brothers are not only talented and knowledgeable, but also exceptionally handsome, she rambled on, genuinely extolling their virtues, eliciting laughter from the others, and easing the tension in the atmosphere. The top 3 candidates were to kneel and express their gratitude before the emperor, who singled out Shun Wanxiao for praise, stating that he surpassed his predecessors, not lacking in the grace of the former Shin Yuanxiao. Shun Wanxiao was appointed as a compiler in the Hanlin Academy, while Shan Jian would undergo further examinations to enter the Hanlin Academy as a junior scholar or take up an official post elsewhere. The Shun household was bustling with visitors. Shun Wanxiao was invited to a banquet of honor, and various other invitations poured in. Shun Luan had initially thought he would disdain attending, but to her surprise, he did not reject the offers and approached each event with seriousness. Jan Shi expressed immense relief at this. I had thought your brother to be aloof and detached, which is not without its merits. Yet such a demeanor does not fare well in official circles and could hinder his career. However, he is more perceptive than I had anticipated. Cultivating friendships at this time will only be beneficial. And he truly does not require anyone's concern. Shun Luan nodded thoughtfully. In her previous life, she had only known that her brother seemed quite remarkable, thriving in the Hanlin Academy, but she had never delved into how Shin Wanxiao achieved it, especially since Chao Jin had repeatedly cautioned her against associating with Shin Wanxiao. She had gleaned bits of information only through Qin Shu's accounts. It turned out Shin Wanxiao was far more formidable than she had imagined. Shortly after the results were announced, the day arrived for Chao Jin and Shan Yu's wedding. Given the recent joyous event in the Shin family, this marriage garnered considerable attention. In her previous life, although Shin Wanxiao was merely a third-place scholar, his accomplishments were still notable, making the wedding particularly captivating, with many eager to curry favor knowing that Chao Jin was marrying Shan Wanxiao's sister. This marriage brought not just the backing of the Shin family but also attracted individuals wishing to form connections with them, allowing Chao Jin to enjoy a period of feeling like a star surrounded by admirers. However, this time, such attention made Chao Jin exceedingly uncomfortable. While Shun Yu was also a daughter of the Shin family, she was merely a concubine's daughter, and her ties to Shan Wanxiao were weak. Due to her status, people felt no need to hold back their words, and thus, they spoke freely, with no one seeking to curry favor with Chao Jin. After all, why would anyone seek to establish a relationship with someone who was merely a concubine's daughter? As a result, the engagement was met with more ridicule than respect, a stark contrast to the previous life that nearly drove Chao Jin to despair. There was no grand procession for the wedding. Shun Yu donned her bridal attire, her face concealed beneath a red veil, wishing to hide her appearance from the world. When bidding farewell in front of the Zhang family, there were no significant words of advice from Zhang. Only a simple hope that she could change her temperament, broaden her horizons, and live well in the future. Shun Yu's face, hidden beneath the veil, was contorted, and her hands, tucked within her sleeves, clenched tightly. She merely nodded gently and followed the matchmaker outside. The sound of firecrackers echoed outside. Shun Yu, unable to see the scene beyond, was muddled as she was ushered into a small sedan chair, leaving the Shun family amidst the cacophony of celebration. Over the past decade and more, her life had been far from joyous. Shun Yu loathed herself for her indecisiveness, for her petty squabbles that allowed Shin Luan to slip from her grasp. It was her fault. Now, facing an entirely new environment, Shin Yu vowed beneath her red veil that she would never repeat her past mistakes. Even amidst adversity, she would undoubtedly attain what she desired. Chao Jin's residence, where he welcomed Shin Yu, was not grand. For an editor to have a place to settle in Yin City was indeed a rare feat. However, in her previous life, the Jin family, fearing Shan Luan might suffer after her marriage, had privately gifted him a spacious courtyard early on, ensuring Shan Luan's comfort, which later became the minister's residence. Shan Luan remained oblivious to this fact until her death, often feeling bewildered whenever she clashed with the matriarch of the Chao family, leaving her uncertain about where to turn. Yet, that was not truly the Chao family's home. In this life, the Chow family would not be so generous. The cramped courtyard was adorned with lanterns and ribbons haphazardly, and the joyful money and gifts from the wedding procession were scant, reminiscent of an ordinary family's wedding. Who could discern that the bride was from the esteemed Shen family? The ceremony was simple, and Shen Yu was ushered into the bridal chamber. The matchmaker waved her handkerchief and handed a scale rod to Chao Jin. The groom lifted the veil, and from that moment forth, the couple would live harmoniously, their hearts in perfect alignment. Shen Yu was taken aback, and before she could refuse, the veil had already been lifted, revealing a brightened room. A collective gasp resonated, and in a flurry, Shen Yu hastily covered her face again, only to hear Chao Jin's voice, "Everyone, please leave." The matchmaker, eager to share more delightful words, dared not linger any longer and exited the bridal chamber along with the onlookers. Chao Jin frowned. The scar was indeed unsightly. "There's no one left. You can lift it," he said, "or do you plan to keep it covered for the rest of your life?" Shen Yu trembled as she pulled the veil down. Clearly catching a glimpse of the disdain flickering in Chao Jin's eyes, she bit her lip forcefully. "You find me repulsive? Do not forget how this scar came to be. It was not my doing. So why should I bear the blame? If you hadn't promised me absolute certainty, would I have cooperated with you? If I hadn't complied, would I have suffered this fate? You think you can wash your hands of this? Not a chance." Shen Yu's eyes flashed with ferocity. "I know you married me out of fear of the Shen family, but Chao Jin, let me tell you, my current state is partly your doing. If you wrong me, do not blame me for being ungrateful. If it comes to it, I have nothing to lose." Shen Yu was already in such a predicament. What was there to fear? Chao Jin's eyes slowly narrowed. This woman was likely still unaware of what marriage truly entailed. However, now was not the time to confront her. He still needed the Shen family's assistance and could not afford to sever ties with Shen Yu just yet. A smile spread across Chao Jin's face, his features handsome and unthreatening, exuding a blind gentleness. "You've misunderstood me. I did not marry you solely out of fear of the Shen family. I merely feel guilty for involving you and wish to make amends." Chao Jin's gaze lingered on the scar on her face. "I am willing to grant you the status of a legitimate wife. If I rise in prominence, no one will dare to look down upon you. Such simple logic should be clear to you. Now, I must go and entertain the guests." Chao Jin turned and opened the door, the warmth of his smile dissipating the moment the door closed behind him. An ungrateful woman, one day, when her utility wanes, she will pay for her audacity today. The guests today were few. Only Shen Jian from the Shen family had arrived, as Shen Wenxiao was occupied with pressing matters, leaving room for speculation among the attendees. Well, he is the top scholar. It is only natural that he wouldn't attend, especially since she is not his biological sister. Then why are we still here? Let us congratulate him and leave early. Chao Jian mingled among the guests for a while, feeling the distinct lack of enthusiasm directed towards him, a sense of disappointment creeping into his heart. Meanwhile, the matriarch of the Chao family, without regard for decorum, publicly berated Shen Yu for the meager dowry she brought. The Shen family is a prominent household, a century-old lineage. How can they be so stingy when marrying off their daughter? Is this akin to sending a beggar away? Guests who had not yet departed wore varied expressions, questioning such a lack of propriety, while Chao Jian felt a headache coming on in his previous life. Shen Luan's dowry had been grand and overwhelming, certainly not comparable to this. "Mother, the dowry is not insignificant. This is typical for marriages in Yin City. Can it be compared? This is the Shen family, a family of great wealth. Is it not too miserly?" The matriarch of the Chao family was increasingly displeased. "With her face like that, we still agreed to marry her. Surely the Shen family should make some gesture?" "Mother!" Chao Jin observed Shen Jian's displeased expression and hurriedly led her away, then approached Shen Jian with a smile. "Why apologies, Uncle Shen. My mother lacks discernment, and I regret the embarrassment caused." Shen Jian's expression was grim. "This match was sought by your Chao family, not us insisting on marrying off our fourth sister." Yes, it was my sincere desire to marry her. Then please treat her well in the future. Fourth sister has it tough. If she suffers outside, the Shen family will not stand idly by." Shen Jian did not linger long. After seeing off the guests, Chao Jian returned to find the matriarch still berating Shen Yu's dowry, nitpicking at every detail. What is all this? Didn't they say a 10-mile bridal procession is the norm in Yin City? Is this it? It's even less than what we have back home. The matriarch had high hopes for the 10-mile bridal procession, anticipating that marrying a wife would lead to wealth and elevation in status. Yet, now it fell far short of her expectations, and her complaints grew louder. The Chow family is willing to take in such a broken-down girl, and yet offers no benefits. As this how one is treated? I will go to the Shin family tomorrow and demand an explanation. Chow Jin, with a dark expression, watched her throw a tantrum. Once she finished, he said in a tone devoid of warmth, "If you go to the Shun family to cause trouble and it interferes with my career, I will have no choice but to send you back home." The matriarch's face froze. She had boasted to the villagers before coming that she would go and enjoy life with her son. If she were to return now, Chapter 118. The return visit. If you don't go, then fine. Mother never intended to hinder you. I just feel wronged for you. The matriarch swallowed her resentment, her gaze shifting toward the newlywed chamber. Though she still needed to vent her frustrations. 3 days after the wedding, Shun Yu donned a veil that was particularly thick, obscuring her face. Nevertheless, even with that, Shun Luan could feel the weight of Shun Yu's gaze upon her. Fourth sister has only been married for a few days, yet it feels like I haven't seen her in ages. Shun Luan stood beside Zhang Shi, dressed in elegant attire that accentuated her beauty. Her radiant smile, almost luminous, captivating anyone who laid eyes on her. Chow Jin's peripheral vision was glued to Shun Luan. She was the one who should have been his bride, exquisite and gentle, capable of bringing him the greatest wealth and support. Chow Jin was entertained by Shen Yuanzhong while Shen Jian accompanied him. Shen Yuanzhong was hesitant to approach Shan Wanxiao. Meanwhile, Shen Yu conversed with several young ladies from the Shen family. The four sisters, rarely gathered together, were in the side hall, where Shen Yu removed her veil. Shen Ling gasped audibly, her tone exaggerated. "Oh my, no wonder you wore that. How are you still so terrifying?" Even Shen Qing couldn't help but gasp. Though she quickly averted her gaze, Shen Yu's eyes quietly fixed on Shen Luan, seemingly waiting for her reaction. Shen Luan glanced over, her voice filled with compassion. "Elder sister, please refrain from speaking. Fourth sister must be feeling quite upset. She need not hide it before us sisters. Elder sister, do not provoke her sadness." Shen Ling shot her a look. "You are so kind-hearted, yet I'm not wrong. I fear this scar may never heal. Fourth sister should go out less. The fewer people she encounters, the less sorrow she'll feel, right?" Shen Yu adjusted the thin veil draped over her shoulders, smiling lightly. "There is no need for you to worry. Elder sister, since you find me so displeasing, you needn't waste your time here with me. Elder sister, you too have not seen third sister for many days. I have some words I wish to share with her in private." "Humph, as if I wanted to accompany you." Shen Ling stood up first, leaving without a backward glance. Had it not been for grandmother's command, she would have preferred not to attend at all. Shen Qing also rose, casting a worried glance at Shen Luan, who offered her a reassuring smile. This was the Shen family. Shen Yu could not stir any trouble here. Once everyone had departed, Shen Luan instructed Zi Yin to bring another pot of tea. The newly delivered tea leaves were said to have been infused with dried fruits and flower petals during the roasting process, imparting a sweetness that surpassed the ordinary. "You must try it." Fourth sister, Shen Luan employed only the finest of items. Her tea set was exquisite and precious, while the fruits presented were a rarity in the homes of common folk. Shen Yu's gaze flitted across Shen Luan's face, noting her rosy complexion and skin that seemed to glow from within, clear and flawless, as if she had been nurtured delicately since childhood. And what of herself? From the break of dawn, she had been at odds with that old curmudgeon from the Chow family, grappling with ways to navigate her own frustrations. In just a few short days, Shen Yu found herself in a state of exasperation, beginning to long for the days spent in her boudoir. How was third sister faring now? In the past, when third sister and she had been so close, a single day apart felt unbearable. Yet now, why had they grown so distant? Shen Luan took a delicate sip of her tea and remarked nonchalantly, "In the past, I must have been lacking in consideration, causing fourth sister no small amount of trouble. However, as I grew older, I realized this was not appropriate. Asked the elder sister, how could I be so reliant on my younger sister? Wouldn't that be a source of ridicule? I had thought that all those past instances were merely the demeanor of an elder sister. How could that be? If I were to feign sophistication, how could I repeatedly commit foolish acts?